Chapter 9:38. The golden light landed on Lin's forehead, and a huge amount of information began to flow in. Fire God mode. Activate 100% of the fire force in the body and convert it into kinetic energy and heat energy for the body, becoming a true fire god of war. The true meaning of the move, the mental cultivation method, and the Tao realm all surged into Lin's mind. When the light disappeared, Lin's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but smile. He bowed to the statue of the god of the day to show his thanks. This technique was extremely powerful and practical. It could be said that it was an unexpected reward from their trip to the Sun Tree. Hatinga stared at Lin in astonishment as his lips trembled. Mr. Lin, what inheritance did you receive? A move called Vulcan mode. Lin didn't mind hiding this. After all, their boss was still alive. The eternal sun god's descendants would probably find out what kind of inheritance they had given. It's a fire god mode, Hatinga exclaimed. All of the other vermilion bird living beings were also looking at Lin with fanatical and envious expressions. Vulcan mode is the eternal sun god's famous move. My god, this is the core inheritance, and it was actually obtained by a human. Oh my god, I can't accept this. Why was the eternal sun god's most powerful inheritance stolen by a human? Even if he's a very nice guy, it shouldn't have happened. Some vermilion birds pounded their chests and stomped their feet. Some wore expressions of indignation, and some were so dejected that tears streamed down their faces. And Lin was suddenly struck by a sense of exhilaration as he looked at their expressions. Aya, this fire god mode seemed to be okay. I hope I can use it in the future. Thank you for your leader's selfless care for me. I and Lin will remember it. And Lin chuckled. All of the vermilion birds gritted their teeth. Mr. Hatinga, shall we go to the mythological beast Kuan Pong now? And Lin smiled. Very well, fellow Taoist Lin. And Hatinga looked at Lin with a complex expression, but he didn't say anything as he led him to the statue of the Kuan Pong mythological beast. All of the vermilion bird powerful beings couldn't help but feel jealous. You're just lucky. What are you so proud of? Humph, he will definitely fail this time. The inheritance is not that easy to obtain. If this human manages to obtain the legacy, I'll immediately jump down from the sun tree. That's impossible anyway. It couldn't be helped. They had been yearning for the inheritance for so long, but they hadn't gained much from it. On the other hand, Lin had obtained the core inheritance of the eternal sun god. This kind of strong contrast made the proud vermilion bird tribe extremely upset. And Lin hummed a little tune as he arrived before the mythological beast Kuan Pong. He looked around at the vermilion bird clan members who were sneaking glances at him. Seeing that they were speaking in jealousy, he was secretly pleased. That's right, building happiness on the enemy's negative emotions felt really good. And Lin continued to pour his blood essence onto the mythological beast statue of Kuan Pong. The golden red essence blood was absorbed by the statue once again, and the statue trembled as if it had come to life. A vast and boundless voice rang out, as if it was above the 9 heavens. Is there a need to pursue something that has been lost? The Kuan Peng's voice sounded. It was neither near nor far, but it flowed into Lin's heart like a stream of water. And Lin fell into deep thought upon hearing this question. This seemed to be an open-ended question. Whether or not to pursue something that had been lost seemed to have something to do with one's state of mind. Pursuing something or not also depended on what it was that had been lost. What was the point of asking this question? No, a thought flashed through Lin's mind. This was a psychological question, and he had to analyze it from the perspective of the Kuan Pong. The Kuan Pong liked to travel all over the world, so it had to have a carefree personality. Hence, he looked at the Kuan Pong with a smile. Something that has been lost has never truly belonged to you, so there's no need to lament or pursue it. Not long after his voice trailed off, the Kuan Peng's voice sounded again. All right, boom. Another extremely dazzling pillar of light descended upon Lin's glabella. I'm not dreaming, am I? Hatinga stared blankly at the man beside him. It's here. The core light of inheritance has appeared again. All of the vermilion bird tribe living beings screamed. What a dazzling light! Lin and has received the approval of another mythological beast. No, how can this be? I refuse to accept this. How can a human do this? He's just a human. One of the vermilion birds clutched its head and shook its head relentlessly as it fell into a state of deep self-doubt. Just as all of the vermilion bird powerful beings were in shock, a vast amount of information began to flow into Lin's mind. Kuan Peng travel. The Kuan Peng rises with the wind in a single day and can ascend for 90,000 kilometers. Kuan Peng travel was the pinnacle of the power of wind. After mastering this technique, one's speed would be enhanced to the extreme, regardless of whether it was in pursuit or flight. The spell technique, true intent, Tao realm, and all types of information flowed into Lin's mind. 15 minutes later, Lin blinked with contentment, and his aura became a little more ethereal and ethereal. Oops, there's too much information. My head is about to explode. Senior Kuan Peng, why did you have to be so polite and impart so many things to me? Lin grumbled with a resigned expression. All of the vermilion birds exploded with rage upon hearing this. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill this flexing bastard. A return to void stage, vermilion bird screeched as it pounced toward Lin. Calm down. Immortal vermilion bird Mang Kuan. This is the 7th level, and fighting is prohibited here. A vermilion bird tried to dissuade it. I'm a return to void stage, immortal beast, and I've been here for over 100 years without receiving the core inheritance of a mythological beast. I refuse to accept this. Another return to void stage vermilion bird heaved a long sigh into the sky. Why is this happening? Why is this human receiving the approval of so many mythological beasts? He's such a lowly bastard. So how is he doing this? A vermilion bird lamented, and Lin's face convulsed upon hearing this. He couldn't just pretend that he hadn't heard this. He turned toward a certain vermilion bird with narrowed eyes. Who was it that said he would jump down from the sun tree if I received the inheritance? Wah, it wasn't me. Why are you all looking at me? Wah wah. A vermilion bird scurried away like a frightened rat, disappearing from everyone's field of vision. As for jumping down from the sun tree, what a joke. Flying was prohibited here. If he jumped down, he would be killed by the power of the sun tree before falling to his death. All of the vermilion birds sighed with emotion at the sight of their friend fleeing in such a sorry state. A triumphant smile appeared on Lin's face as he waved a hand through the air. Let's go. Hatinga, let's go to the statue of the 9-color divine vermilion bird. He didn't know whether it was his blood or his eloquence, but it seemed like none of the mythological beasts here were averse to him, which filled him with a lot of confidence. Hatinga came to his senses, and he stared at Lin as if he were looking at a monster. And Lin made his way toward the 9-color divine vermilion bird before tossing another drop of blood essence toward it. Splat! The drop of blood essence landed on the statue of the 9-color divine vermilion bird, upon which a vibrant flower of blood blossomed. Deathly silence ensued. All of the vermilion birds were also slightly dazed upon seeing this. And Lin paused momentarily before tossing another drop of blood essence onto the statue of the 9-color divine vermilion bird. The air remained extremely silent, and nothing changed. All of the vermilion birds were used to being shocked by Lin, so they were inexplicably nervous upon seeing this. However, all of them finally began to chortle with mirth at the sight of the statue's lack of reaction. Ha ha! I knew it! How could Lin receive the acknowledgement of all of the mythological beasts? Wah wah wah, I knew it! How could Lin receive the acknowledgement of all of the mythological beasts? Wah wah wah! Let's see what Lin has to be so smug about. A dejected expression appeared on Lin's face. I've really embarrassed myself. I interacted with 3 mythological beasts, but I only received 2 core inheritances. I really don't have the face to face all of you. I don't deserve to stand on the sun tree. All of the vermilion birds' mocking laughter abruptly died down. PFFF. Some of the vermilion birds threw up mouthfuls of blood from rage. F*CK. You received 2 core inheritances, so you don't deserve to stand on the sun tree? Then what about all of US who didn't even receive a single core inheritance? All of the vermilion birds glared at Lin with rage and resentment, but they didn't know what to say. Only now did they realize that this human really wasn't as simple as he seemed. Chapter 9:39. Not only was this human male despicable, but he was also very good at mocking them. The proud vermilion bird tribe cultivators were starting to doubt their lives. The only point of mockery was wiped away by Lin's nonchalant response. No one could stop Lin's footsteps, and he continued onward toward the 4th mythological beast. This was the immortal divine vermilion bird, a Tao integration stage mythological beast that had died to the purple star Tao vanquishing formation. Apparently, it was also the most ancient mythological beast of the Sun Tree. And Lin immediately tossed a drop of blood essence toward the immortal divine vermilion bird without any hesitation. It didn't matter to him whether or not he had the approval of a mythological beast, so he didn't really care. The drop of blood essence landed on the statue and was quickly absorbed. All of the vermilion bird's nervous expressions were replaced by astonishment upon seeing this. Some of the vermilion birds' expressions had even twisted as they bit down on the tips of their beaks. That's right, all of them had become completely unrecognizable from jealousy. An elderly, hoarse voice sounded from within the statue. What is the difference between loneliness and loneliness? Lin was ecstatic to hear this. He had heard this before. Once upon a time, he had also been an artistic youth. There seemed to be no difference between these two terms, but the emotions they conveyed were quite different. An expression of indifference appeared on his face. Loneliness is when others don't want to talk to you, while loneliness is when you don't want to talk to others. After a moment of silence, the statue spoke again. Your answer isn't artistic enough. And Lin's heart jolted with shock. Could it be that this immortal divine vermilion bird was also an artistic enthusiast? Loneliness is the helplessness of being left behind by others, while loneliness is the strength of being away from others. Another moment of silence ensued. All right, true powerful beings stand at the pinnacle of all living beings and are destined to be lonely. I look on as time passes by, but it's not loneliness, it's loneliness. The voice sounded like a sigh, and it sounded like a distant sigh. And Lin chuckled internally. Even though powerful beings were always lonely, he was so bad *SS, and he had the company of his beautiful Xiaolan and all of his adorable friends. Perhaps this was the sigh of a single bird. All he had to do was nod in agreement. The dazzling light of inheritance fell upon Lin's body before the vermilion bird powerful being's eyes. He has already obtained 3 core inheritances in a row. This has never happened before in our divine beast Tao comprehension area. One might be luck, but 3 in a row. Some of the vermilion birds were expressions of despair. Even though they didn't want to admit it, they had no choice but to accept this reality. Perhaps this is the real boss. His bloodline is definitely very powerful. Perhaps he possesses an extremely pure bloodline of the vermilion bird. Moreover, he is very eloquent and knowledgeable, and is deeply loved by the mighty divine beasts. Sigh, we're all inferior to him. A return to void stage vermilion bird stared at the man enshrouded in golden light with awe and veneration in its eyes. Heitinga looked at the man beside him with a scorching light in his eyes. And Lin's confident and indifferent expression, as well as his coquettish posture of obtaining the core inheritance, as if he was mowing grass, had already completely conquered it. Blood doppelganger technique. Once this technique is practiced, one can release their blood essence and inject the power of their divine sense to create doppelgangers that are controlled by their divine sense. The stronger the divine sense, the more doppelgangers can be created. A huge amount of information began to flow into Lin's mind. Lin was already very familiar with this technique, and he accepted this ancient mythological beast's inheritance with a calm expression. This blood clone technique could be combined with the water clone technique of the divine creation elixir cultivation technique to create an even more powerful clone technique. Soon, the inheritance process concluded, and Lin heaved a light sigh of relief before bowing deeply to the statue of the immortal divine vermilion bird to express his gratitude. Let's go, Hatinga. Let's go to the statue of the mutant blood phoenix. Hatinga nodded blankly upon hearing this before following along behind Enlin. Enlin didn't mock the vermilion bird's present, but the indifferent expression on his face made all of them shudder. This was the gaze of a powerful boss. All of the vermilion birds looked on at Enlin's departing figure, and they suddenly felt as if he were becoming taller and taller. Enlin arrived before the mutant blood phoenix, and a grave expression finally appeared on his face. He released his blood essence, which slowly dripped onto the statue of the mutant blood phoenix. Enlin's blood essence was then absorbed by the mutant blood phoenix. The statue of the mutant blood phoenix began to tremble violently as a burst of pressure erupted forth. All of the vermilion bird's expressions shifted drastically. My God, what's with such a violent reaction? Even the essential power left behind by the mutant blood phoenix has been activated. This is unprecedented. Who is Linen? Why is he able to trigger such a drastic reaction? All of the vermilion birds were astonished as they stared blankly at the trembling statue. A sense of foreboding welled up in Enlin's heart. The mutant blood phoenix's proud, yet curious voice sounded. Who are you? Why do you possess my power? So it knows that I possess its power? Enlin came to a sudden realization, and he clasped his hands behind his back as the aura unique to the mutant blood phoenix erupted forth. At the same time, the white vermilion bird in his sea of vital energy raised its head, and the red vein patterns on its body swirled as an even more powerful aura erupted forth. Boom! All of the vermilion bird tribe powerful beings present felt their breathing falter as their bodies trembled violently, and they were struck by the urge to submit to the man standing nearby. What's going on? This aura is so terrifying. Bloodline pressure. I can actually feel bloodline pressure from this human. Who is this Linen? Why does he possess such power? All of the vermilion bird tribe powerful beings were truly scared now. The bloodline power unleashed by a human was able to suppress their bloodlines? How could they believe it? And Lin looked at the statue with a calm expression. Who I am isn't important. You're just a remnant power, so why aren't you submitting to me? All of the vermilion birds exploded into a frenzy upon hearing this. Impudence! How dare you speak to a mighty, mythological beast like this? This is extremely disrespectful. We should kill him on the spot. Don't worry, we won't even need to do anything to him. The remnant power left behind by the mythological beast will kill him on the spot. Many of the vermilion birds glowered at this arrogant human. Yes, the statue trembled slightly as an expression of submission appeared on its face. A pillar of golden light rose into the sky from the statue before descending upon Enlin's body, enshrouding his entire body within. Boom! The golden light seemed to have eclipsed all other colors as it descended like a waterfall. The indescribable light of inheritance lit up the entire 7th level. All of the vermilion birds were dumbstruck as they stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Some of the vermilion birds' legs had even given out from under them, and they collapsed to the ground as they murmured to themselves, Why is this happening? Is this the King light of inheritance? Chapter 940. Enlin's entire body was enshrouded by the light of inheritance, and a sense of elation welled up in his heart. He was the one who had obtained the mutant blood phoenix's Tao intent talisman in the vast land of blood. That talisman was imbued with the power of the mutant blood phoenix, as well as its most powerful Tao intent technique. So it was definitely more powerful than the power it had left behind in the statue. Hence, Enlin really could make the statue submit to him. Powerful phoenix power flowed relentlessly into his body, and all types of inheritances regarding the mutant blood phoenix also flowed into his mind. The light of inheritance was like a pillar of light that was extremely dazzling. All of the phoenixes were dumbstruck. Is this a miracle? I've never seen such a terrifying light of inheritance in my entire life. That's terrifying. Is it going to pass on all of this information to Linen? The vast amount of light of inheritance lasted for a full 15 minutes before dissipating. And Lin shook his head. I'm so full. All of the vermilion birds threw up another mouthful of blood upon hearing this. This human was King Evil. He was still trying to take advantage of them. This was way too exciting. And Lin shook his head. Even though there was a lot of information, there weren't many practical spell techniques. He had already obtained the most powerful one, the sun-setting technique. His biggest reward was the power left behind by the mutant blood phoenix. After that power fused into his body, the purity of his blood phoenix divine flame was elevated to the level of a top-tier divine flame. Who is this Linen? How could a soul formation stage gladiator possess such insane power? A white vermilion bird asked with shock and horror. I heard he's an exceptional prodigy who was able to fight the vermilion bird princess to a draw. He's extremely powerful, but in this place, strength alone is not enough. Could it be that he's the illegitimate child of a mythological beast and a human, which is why he possesses a very pure vermilion bird bloodline? If that's the case, how can we not know? All of the vermilion birds didn't dare to underestimate Lin anymore. All of them were now filled with awe and curiosity toward Lin. Whether it was the bloodline pressure that Lin had displayed or the recognition that he had received from the mythological beasts, they all felt immense pressure. Now that I think about it, Lin has already obtained the recognition of a total of 4 divine beasts here. Moreover, it's the recognition of the highest level core inheritance. This can be said to be unprecedented in our divine beast enlightenment area. Right? That's right. Even immortal beasts at the return to void pinnacle stage don't have such terrifying feats. That's too frightening. For the 5 divine beasts all approve of Linen, and he's just a human. If news of this gets out, it'll probably cause a huge stir in the entire vermilion bird tribe. We have to keep this a secret, or else our race's creatures will suffer a great blow. I fear that there will be quite a few existences who will doubt their lives. I'm already doubting my life as a bird. Is Linen the descendant of the vermilion bird, or are we the descendants of the vermilion bird? Why is the gap so big? Thank God Lin has only received the recognition of 4 mythological beasts. If he had received the recognition of all of the mythological beasts, then I would probably have to kneel before him. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, fallen ice blue vermilion bird. Everything that's happening right now can only be described as terrifying. You're talking about receiving the recognition of all of the mythological beasts. How could something as bizarre as that happen? A vermilion bird comforted its companion with a smile, as if it was also consoling itself. Right at this moment, another resounding boom erupted. A beam of golden light pierced through the air before landing on Lin's body. All of the vermilion birds fell into a daze upon seeing the source of the golden light. This was because the source of the golden light was none other than the 9-color divine vermilion bird statue that had shown no reaction to Lin's blood essence. The golden light was extremely dazzling, and it was also an extremely powerful golden light of inheritance. And Lin was also dumbstruck. Why was the inheritance suddenly shooting toward him at a time like this? Not only him, but all of the vermilion bird powerful beings were also perplexed. As if guessing what the spectators were thinking, an extremely sweet and pleasant voice sounded out and explained, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been thinking about what inheritance to give you. Now that I've thought it through, please accept the inheritance." Gasp. All of the onlookers drew a sharp intake of breath. Holy F***CK. This was the reason why the golden inheritance was suddenly shooting toward him, and Lin suddenly realized that something was amiss. Wait, you haven't asked me a question yet. Oh, the 9-color divine vermilion bird statue faltered momentarily before asking, "Do you think I'm beautiful?" And Lin faltered momentarily before offering words of praise. "You're the most beautiful divine vermilion bird I've ever seen. You're a peerless beauty and a peerless beauty." All right, the 9-color divine vermilion bird was very happy. Now, then, accept the inheritance. And Lin, all of the vermilion bird tribe onlookers, was this really a F***king question? Did she misunderstand the meaning of the word question? This was a free question. Boom. The light of inheritance hurtled toward Enlin's body without any hesitation. Enlin began to wail like a little submissive, as if his body was struggling after receiving so many inheritances in succession. That's right, the nine-color divine vermilion bird seemed to be forcing the inheritance onto Enlin. It was as if Enlin wasn't asking for the inheritance, but the nine-color divine vermilion bird was forcing the inheritance onto him. All of the vermilion birds were completely dumbstruck upon hearing Enlin's anguished cries. Perhaps this was the nine-color divine vermilion bird's frustrations. Boom, boom, boom. All of the vermilion birds knelt to the ground and knelt to Enlin. All of the mythological beasts of the Sun Tree were highly approving of Enlin. This was an unprecedented event, and a new miracle had been created for the Sun Tree. In that instant, Enlin was as dazzling as a god to them. Enlin was currently accepting the nine-color divine vermilion bird's inheritance. He didn't know why the nine-color divine vermilion bird was so nice to him. But with the attitude of a bastard who wouldn't take advantage of a situation, he naturally wouldn't reject such a gift. A huge amount of information flowed into Enlin's mind like a tidal wave, and he finally understood the contents of this inheritance. 5 elements combination technique. Fuse the powers of the 5 elements within one's body to create a brand new power of the 5 elements. Enlin's eyes lit up as he digested the information regarding this spell technique. This spell was very much to his liking. It would be very useful to him. After accepting the inheritance, he turned to the proud and beautiful peacock with a grateful expression and bowed deeply. Thank you for your gift, Senior. Among the 5 mythological beasts, the 9-color divine vermilion bird's inheritance was the one that he was most satisfied with. After everything returned to normal, Enlin came to his senses and looked around to discover that all of the vermilion birds were sprawled on the ground, as if they were kowtowing to him. Enlin had seen this type of scene many times, so he was very calm and collected. He smiled faintly and said in a dignified yet amiable tone, "Ha! Everyone, there is no need to be so courteous. Please rise." All of the vermilion birds. Chapter 941. The vermilion bird tribe cultivators didn't know what to say after hearing Enlin's words. They had to admit that they had indeed been won over by Enlin's performance, and they couldn't help but kneel down to him. But how was it that Enlin was able to face their reverence and reverence with such proficiency? Kneel? F***CK off. Do you really think we want to kneel down to you? The vermilion birds grumbled internally, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't have the face to belittle Enlin, but they couldn't bring themselves to praise Enlin. Enlin couldn't be bothered to deal with the vermilion birds. He turned to Heitinga with a smile. "Thank you, Mr. Heitinga. If you hadn't brought me to the mythological beast Dao observation area, I wouldn't have been able to reap the rewards I have today." Heitinga's body shuddered, and he came to his senses as he stared at Enlin with a fervent expression. "Mr. Enlin, who are you? Why are you so exceptional?" Enlin replied nonchalantly, "Shouldn't someone who can fight to a draw with your Sun Tree War God, the Vermilion Bird Princess, be exceptional?" Heitinga, the brawny man in black, reluctantly accepted Enlin's explanation. After all, there was nothing he could do if Enlin didn't want to give a detailed explanation. "I'll have to trouble you to lead the way, Mr. Heitinga. It's best if we go to a place like the mythological beast Dao observation area, a place where fated people can receive blessings. I feel like I have quite the affinity with your Sun Tree," Enlin said with a hint of longing in his voice. Heitinga's flesh crawled. The mythological beast Dao observation area is the best place for the champion of the arena, and it's also the core area of the 7th level. "Mr. Enlin, you've received more mythological beast inheritances than all of the living beings on the 7th level. "Oh." Enlin nodded upon hearing this. This was a basic principle, so he wasn't feeling smug. Perhaps this was what it meant to be a person who didn't care about material gains or losses. "Is there anything good on the 8th level?" Enlin feigned nonchalance. "The 8th floor." Heitinga's expression shifted slightly. "That place is a restricted area even for our vermilion bird tribe. and only Tao integration stage mythological beasts have the right to enter. We don't even know where the passageway to the 8th layer is. The 8th level is so mysterious? Then wouldn't the legendary 9th level and Guardian of the Sun Tree be even more powerful? And Lin exclaimed in amazement. That's right. Apparently, the Guardian of the Sun Tree is an extremely revered being on the 9th level. Only Tao integration stage mythological beasts have seen its true appearance, and Tao integration stage mythological beasts have to obtain its permission to see it. If it doesn't agree, even Tao integration stage mythological beasts won't be able to see it. A hint of curiosity and yearning appeared on Heitinga's face at the mention of the Guardian of the Sun Tree. Who wouldn't want to see a legendary figure with their own eyes? And Lin, the more he thought about it, the more he felt that the system mission was a scam. If he failed, 100 IQ points would be deducted. Could it be that the system wanted to turn him into a retard on purpose, so it created this mission? The more Lin thought about it, the more vexed he became. He had finally made it to the 7th level, only to find that the path to the next 2 levels had been completely blocked. There was no hope for him at all. Heitinga led Lin onward, passing by one scenic spot after another. However, he was greeted by the sight of Lin's disgruntled expression. Lin's heart was instantly filled with indignation. What? You've received the blessings of 5 mythological beasts in a row, and you're not King happy? Even though he was a little disgruntled, he put on a facade and maintained a cheerful expression on his face. Heitinga, who was responsible for receiving visitors, was a professional. Along the way, many Vermilion bird tribe living beings turned to look at Lin. News of the mythological beast Tao observation area hadn't spread yet, but many Vermilion bird tribe living beings knew that the dazzling light of inheritance had most likely been triggered by this human. It was exactly because of this that they were all extremely curious about Lin. Even the extremely proud Vermilion birds, who were immortal beasts, couldn't help but lower their heads and appraise the human with curiosity in their eyes. And Lin was still a little unaccustomed to the fact that he had suddenly transformed into a panda. However, he didn't say anything. No birds dared to provoke him, so he couldn't be bothered to deal with them. Hey, you're Linen? A voice suddenly sounded, and Lin turned to discover that a vermilion bird with a pair of inky black claws and pristine white feathers was staring at him with a scorching light in its eyes. This was a return to Void Stage immortal beast with a decent cultivation base. That's right, and Lin nodded. My name is Baishinga. I really like the Vermilion Bird Princess from the arena, but you killed her, so I challenge you to a duel. The White Vermilion Bird announced, and Lin faltered upon hearing this. Were all duels this straightforward these days? Senior Baishinga, please calm down. Heitinga stood before Lin and tried to dissuade him, and Lin was a little touched upon seeing this. Not taking into account anything else, just the fact that Heitinga was willing to risk his life to protect him from a return to Void Stage Immortal Beast was enough to make him very fond of him. The power that Lin had displayed at the arena has already transcended beyond the return to Void Intermediate Stage, but you're a return to Void Intermediate Stage Immortal Beast. If you challenge him to a duel, he'll beat you to death. Heitinga spoke with a tense expression, and Lin, Baishinga, and Lin's impression of Lin plummeted to negative after hearing this. He was finally touched, but this was what he was worried about. However, Baishinga was not enraged in the slightest. Instead, a faint smile appeared on his face. I'm not going to challenge Lin into a duel of power. Instead, I'm going to challenge him to a duel of Tao hearts. Heitinga's expression shifted drastically. You're talking about the duel at the Heart Examining Lake? That's right. I want to challenge Lin into a duel to see whose Tao heart is more resolute. A proud expression appeared on Baishinga's face. I refuse. And Lin immediately refused. Baishinga and Heitinga both faltered upon hearing this. Why would you refuse my challenge? Baishinga's eyes widened. Why would I accept your challenge? And Lin retorted. Baishinga glared at Lin. For glory, of course. I want to prove myself. And Lin couldn't help but burst into laughter before he even had a chance to finish a sentence. Sorry, but I'm very bad *SS. I know that, and everyone else knows that. Hence, I don't need to prove myself to you. And Lin's eyes lit up as he raised his head, and a peerlessly domineering aura began to emanate from his body. In other words, who the hell do you think you are to deserve a duel from me? H, how could you do this? Baishinga's body trembled with rage. It had thought that such a proud person would definitely accept a challenge, but it didn't think that he would receive such a reply. Linen, the duel at the heart-examining lake is only a duel of Tao hearts. There will be no life-threatening injuries, so you don't have to worry about that. If I lose, I'll give you 3 sun immortal fruits from the 7th level of the sun tree. If you lose, you don't have to do anything other than leave the sun tree immediately. Baishinga still didn't give up, and Lin was even more adamant upon hearing this. If he lost, he would have to leave the sun tree immediately and become a retard. I refuse. This time, his reply was even more resolute. This time, even Tunga agreed with Lin's decision. The heart-examining lake is the most peculiar place on the 7th level of the sun tree. It is inextricably linked to all 9 continents of the sun tree, so it is indeed not suitable for outsiders to enter. I agree with fellow Taoist Lin An's decision. Senior Baishinga, you were too reckless. Tunga spoke in a voice that was neither servile nor overbearing. But our mighty mythological beast didn't explicitly forbid outsiders from entering the heart-examining lake, did it? Baishinga didn't give up. It was still making its final struggle. And Lin caught on to this point and heaved a faint sigh. I'm truly moved to see fellow Taoist by Baishinga's stubbornness. So be it, I'll compete with you. Tunga. Baishinga looked at Lin and opened its mouth, but it didn't know what to say. Was what it had just said so touching? Wasn't this human's touching point a little strange? Chapter 942. Baishinga also continued onward, and it insisted on staying one body ahead of Lin like a child throwing a tantrum. And Lin, why don't you have any expression of pain on your face at all? Ripples spread out, and his own reflection appeared in the clear lake under the faint white light. No, you must be putting on an act to put pressure on me. He turned toward Baishinga with a faint smile. Shall we begin? And Lin continued onward. He didn't dare to walk too quickly in case he suddenly fell into the lake. He didn't fall, and Lin was extremely excited. Even so, it still unleashed a spell technique to shrink its body to around the same size as Lin before continuing onward. It had very complex emotions toward Lin. Its favorite gladiator had died at the hands of Lin, even though that was a fair and square battle. And Lin's appearance here still made it very uncomfortable. So, could he enter the 8th level of the sun tree by following the flow of energy? Thus, the human and the bird walked for several hundred meters. It wasn't that he didn't want to pay attention to Baishinga, but he didn't even know what his Tao heart was. He couldn't help but glance at Baishinga. After walking for a short distance, they saw an extremely clear lake. F***CK. It was exhausted to the point where it had to use all its strength to walk in front. The man behind it didn't seem to be in any pain at all, and he even had the energy to taunt it. He could see that Baishinga's entire body was trembling as if it were convulsing, and it seemed to be expending an extremely large amount of energy with each and every step it took. Even so, it still walked with all its might until it was one body ahead of Lin. And Lin's brows furrowed slightly. Something wasn't right. There was something wrong with this battle. And Lin unleashed his divine sense to investigate, only to find that even his powerful divine sense was unable to penetrate the white mist. It had to be said that this was quite a provocation. The lake was vast, rippling with spiritual ripples. Attributed energy poured in from all directions, gathering here. It was rich to the extreme. PFFF. Baishinga spat out a mouthful of blood. Tunga and Baishinga were very surprised by Lin's sudden change in attitude. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't taken a look, but the moment he did, he was shocked. He felt that this heart-questioning lake wasn't as difficult as he had imagined. Stepping on it felt like he was walking on flat ground, and he didn't feel any discomfort at all. Baishinga captured Lin's expression very well. He was very happy to see the fear on Lin's face and smiled faintly. What Are you afraid, fellow Taoist Linen? Baishinga led the way with excitement in his heart. And Lin didn't say anything and took the first step towards the heart-questioning lake. And Lin rolled his eyes helplessly. Baishinga wanted to pass the Tao heart trial for two reasons. On one hand, he wanted to put an end to this knot in his heart. And on the other hand, he didn't want Lin to continue staying at the Sun Tree. Who's your little brother? I, Baishinga, have never been inferior to anyone in my life, and I will never be inferior to you. Baishinga turned to Enlin and said fiercely, Holy F***, CK. What are you doing, Brother Bai? Enlin let loose a cry of surprise. Baishinga suddenly came to a realization and chuckled coldly. Hee hee, what a cunning little brat. Your Tao heart must be trembling right now, and you're in a lot of pain and can't hold on much longer, right? I've already seen through your ruse, so I'll definitely be the final victor. Keep flexing all you want. Let's see how you're going to keep up the act after you fall into the lake. Baishinga grumbled angrily at the sight of Enlin's complete disregard for its battle proclamation. Enlin, it was enshrouded in a faint white mist, and there was no end in sight. It also stepped onto the surface of the lake, and the ripples on the surface of the lake also lifted its body into the air. Linen, let's begin our battle. I'll show you that your Tao heart is nothing in my eyes. Baishinga tidied its feathers and looked at Enlin with raging battle intent. He was quite surprised to find such rich yin energy in an area enshrouded in yang energy. Furthermore, there were no illusions or tribulations to impede it. It really was as if it were walking. Perhaps this was what Heitinga meant by its connection to the Sun Tree. It had walked for so long, yet there were no obstacles or difficulties. How could a battle that tested one's Tao heart be this simple? It wasn't very large, and it was only about 30 to 40 times the size of Enlin. Baishinga didn't say anything, but there was a hint of respect in its eyes. Even its wings had completely folded up, as if it had entered a holy place. Baishinga nodded. That's right. This heart-examining lake is paved with one's Tao heart, and how far you can go will determine how resilient your Tao heart is. If your Tao heart becomes unstable, the lake beneath your feet will no longer be able to support your body, and you'll fall into the lake before being swept back to the shore. Was this bird sick in the head? You? Baishinga's expression darkened with rage. I hope you'll still be able to say something like that when you fall into the lake as a loser. He could do it, he could do it. Enlin's expression remained indifferent, and he couldn't be bothered to respond to Baishinga. Instead, he looked into the distance with a profound expression, and his white robe fluttered in the wind. A pained expression? Enlin blinked before suddenly sticking out his tongue. His eyes rolled over as he spoke in a raspy voice. Like this? This was a very petite figure among the vermilion bird tribe. That's right. This is the only place on the Sun Tree that we've discovered that possesses powerful yin-type energy. Yin and yang are mutually reinforcing, and it's because of this place that the Sun Tree is in perfect harmony, Heitinga explained. However, Enlin's decision to compete with Baishinga at the heart-examining lake still made Baishinga very happy, and he immediately agreed. This is yin-type energy? Enlin was a little surprised. He couldn't help but feel a little scared with this in mind. Enlin thought back to the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers. There had also been a trial to test one's Tao heart, and he couldn't even take a single step at that time. In the end, he received a score of 0. 1 point. The two of them bickered for a while before the competition finally began. Baishinga was stunned upon seeing Enlin's expression. Heitinga stood on the shore, but he couldn't see them due to the white mist that obscured his view. Just by approaching that place, he could already sense a cool and sinister feeling. Enlin followed Baishinga to the western border of the continent, where there was a cave entrance that was constructed from intertwining white branches. This is the heart-examining lake? Enlin asked. All right, I'll take you to the heart-examining lake right away. Baishinga's expression shifted slightly at the sight of Enlin's confident and domineering expression, and he raised his proud head. Come on. Enlin secretly observed his surroundings and discovered that the yin-type energy flowed and converged from above and below. This meant that a portion of the yin-type energy was flowing down from the 8th or even the 9th level. Chapter 943. The man and the bird walked for another few hundred meters. Baishinga's teeth chattered as sweat poured down its forehead. It looked at the man beside it to find that he was still walking with a calm expression, without any signs of fatigue or pain. How? How could he possibly put on an act? And Lin detected Baishinga's gaze, and a faint smile appeared on his face as he turned to the vermilion bird beside him. I'm so tired. This heart-examining lake is way too terrifying. PFFF. Baishinga felt as if 10,000 mythological beasts were stampeding over its heart, and it almost fell to its knees. How could this be? How could you be completely fine? Baishinga was in despair. This human was definitely a monster. It was almost at the end of its rope, but Lin was completely at ease. It also knew that this was not an act. Rather, it was a feeling that emanated from the inside out. Could it be? Baishinga's pupils contracted as it stared at Lin in astonishment. You've already reached the Tao Heart Realm? Lin looked at the vermilion bird with a meaningful expression and was full of praise in his heart. He was just wondering why he wasn't affected by the heart-examining lake when this enthusiastic vermilion bird provided him with an explanation. Amazing! The heart-examining lake contains extremely rich yin-type power that can reflect one's body. If one's Tao heart is filled with distracting thoughts, they will be battered by the power of the lake. Distracting thoughts are like rocks in a river, constantly being battered by the power of the lake until they can no longer hold on. However, if one can reach the legendary Tao Heart Realm, they will be able to traverse the heart-examining lake without any obstacles. That's right, this is definitely the Tao Heart Realm. Linen, you sure hid your abilities well. Baishinga drew a sharp intake of breath as it stared at Lin. Its eyes were filled with indignation, as well as admiration after being defeated. To be able to lose to a being with a Tao Heart Realm without a Tao Heart Realm, even if I lose this heart-examining lake trial, it's not an unfair loss. Perhaps the Vermilion Bird Princess, losing to you, was also destined. It stared at Lin with even more fighting spirit burning in its eyes. However, I won't give up so easily. I will continue onward. The trial is not over yet. Boom! PFFF. Before Baishinga could finish his sentence, he lost his footing and fell into the lake, creating a huge splash. Ah! 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 Baishinga yelled as his body was swept away by the terrifying lake water and disappeared into the white mist. Lin, thank you for your hard work. You even explained everything to me before you fell. And Lin thanked Baishinga from the bottom of his heart. However, the explanation of having a pure Tao heart was really quite strange. He didn't know what Tao he was pursuing, so he naturally didn't know whether his Tao heart was firm or not. To him, the Tao heart was like a piece of white paper, hazy and indistinct. Could it be that the naive Tao heart could be expressed as a pure Tao heart? Lin found it interesting and was in a good mood. He hummed a tune and continued walking forward. A pure Tao heart. It sounded like a very awesome realm. He was naturally very happy to have such a realm. At this moment, at the edge of the heart-examining lake, Heitinga could hear the sound of flowing water in the distance. A serious expression appeared on his face. The outcome of the battle had been decided. Sure enough, Baishinga's body appeared in his field of vision before being swept toward him by the yin-type lake water. Boom! Baishinga's body was mercilessly slammed into the ground by the lake water, and it looked extremely disheveled. Senior Baishinga, did you lose? Heitinga asked with incredulity. Generally speaking, the higher the cultivation base of a living being, the more stable their Tao heart would be. However, Heitinga was extremely shocked to see this. Baishinga wriggled its body to get rid of the lake water, then raised its proud head as if it had forgotten about its previous sorry state. That's right, I've lost. I didn't think that Linen would be a being with a pure Tao heart. I've miscalculated. A pure Tao heart. Heitinga jumped to his feet and let loose a cry of surprise. Legend has it that this type of Tao heart can directly connect to the great Tao of heaven and earth, allowing one to see true knowledge amidst chaos. It's extremely easy for one to break through to the next cultivation base. Who would have thought that Linen would be this terrifying? He had defeated the Vermilion Bird Princess and received the acknowledgement of the 5 mythological beasts. Now, Lin had a pure Tao heart. Hatinga really didn't know what he should feel when facing this miraculous man. After a short while, Hatinga finally came to his senses. He looked up at the white mist with a curious expression. Lin has already defeated you. Where is he? The outcome has already been decided. He should be walking back now. Let's wait a little longer, Baishinga replied in an indifferent voice. Thus, Baishinga and Hatinga both turned their eyes toward the white mist. 15 minutes passed. Everything was eerily quiet. Senior Baishinga, does it take that long to return? Hatinga couldn't help but break the silence. Baishinga, perhaps he encountered some special circumstances? Baishinga spoke with difficulty. What kind of special circumstances could he have encountered? Perhaps he fell into the lake and drowned? Hatinga's lips twitched. Baishinga, Senior, I have a bold speculation. Could it be that Lin doesn't want to come back? Could it be that he's still walking forward? Hatinga and Baishinga both drew a sharp intake of breath before they even had a chance to finish their sentence. A chill ran down their spines. Senior, why didn't you tell Lin that it was forbidden to enter this place? Hatinga's body trembled. I didn't think he would be able to defeat me. A normal living being wouldn't be able to make it to the other side. Baishinga was a return to void stage mighty figure, but he was also trembling uncontrollably. Don't worry, we must be overthinking things. Lin is definitely on his way back. Baishinga offered words of consolation. He must have encountered some kind of emergency, such as merging his intent realm and achieving some enlightenment. Mr. Lin must be on his way back right now. Hatinga also offered words of consolation. Baishinga, let's wait a little longer. Hatinga, all right, let's wait a little longer. The 2 Vermilion Bird Tribe powerful beings were eagerly awaiting Lin's return. Within the depths of the heart-examining lake, and Lin continued onward with steady and unwavering footsteps. He wanted to see what lay at the other end of the heart-examining lake. After walking for what seemed like an eternity, a beautiful ballad began to sound from within the white mist. He couldn't understand what was being sung. It seemed to be a strange language, but that didn't diminish the beauty of the ballad in the slightest. The melody was extremely moving, and the voice was pleasing to the ears. It was like a surging sea of clouds, surging river tides, graceful mountain ranges, flowers, insects, and birds dancing in the wind. She was singing about a beautiful world in her imagination. And Lin walked out from the heart-examining lake and passed through the white mist before spotting a figure. Chapter 944. The heavenly song abruptly came to an end, and Lin had just passed through the white mist when he saw a woman bathing on a small white lake. The two of them were rooted to the spot and looked at each other. Everything was deathly silent. The only sound that could be heard was the dripping sound of white water droplets falling into the lake. The woman's eyes were bright and piercing, and there was a faint blush on her flawless cheeks. Her lips were as supple as rose petals. Translucent water droplets flowed down the woman's jet-black hair before landing on her smooth shoulders. Her petite figure was entwined by a few colorful streamers, creating an extremely alluring sight. Her chest rose and fell, and one could almost see 2 spots of red, and Lin had never thought that he would be able to witness such an erotic scene. However, he didn't have time to appreciate it, because the scene in front of him gave him a different kind of shock. Lin, Vermilion Bird Princess. The two of them called out each other's names at the same time. Vermilion Bird Princess, it really is you. How did you revive? And Lin was astonished. A faint blush appeared on the woman's face as she waved a hand at Lin. And Lin felt his vision blur, and when he regained his vision, he was greeted by the sight of a beautiful young woman in neat and tidy clothes. The young woman was still wearing her red high heels and a colorful dress, giving her a youthful and vibrant appearance. Clatter, clatter. She made her way toward Lin, and Lin's entire body tensed up as he braced himself for battle. He had accidentally witnessed a woman bathing. According to the script, it was going to be a fight between a man and a woman. However, A slender finger suddenly tapped onto the tip of Lin's nose at this moment. "Linen, why are you here?" The young woman cocked her head to the side as she stared at the man before her with bright eyes. "Air," and Lin faltered slightly before replying, "I walked all the way here from the heart-examining lake." "You crossed the heart-examining lake." The young woman was astonished. "Hee, I have a spotless Tao heart, so crossing the heart-examining lake was as easy as walking on flat ground." And Lin replied with a smug expression. "That's impressive," the young woman exclaimed. It could be seen that the girl's exclamation was not out of flattery, but out of genuine astonishment. And Lin felt extremely comfortable. This was the first time he had used his Tao heart to act cool, and the experience was pretty good. "You still haven't answered me, Vermilion Bird Princess. Have you been resurrected?" And Lin pinched her cheek to find that it was soft and smooth to the touch. It seemed to be real. And Lin's perverted hand was slapped away by the girl. "I'm not dead at all. Resurrection my ass." The girl pouted coquettishly. "I just turned into a light and escaped. You think you can kill me? Stop your wishful thinking." And Lin wasn't enraged. Instead, he was quite elated after confirming the Vermilion Bird Princess identity. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I was sad for you for nothing." The Vermilion Bird Princess eyelashes fluttered upon hearing this, and her eyes lit up with a smile. "I didn't think that you would be sad for me. It's rare for me to meet someone in the deity transformation realm who can compete with me. It would be a pity if you died. I knew there were no idiots who would rather die than run. So you were faking your death." And Lin sighed with emotion. "You don't understand. I really was fighting you with the intent to die. That was my honor, the honor of the Sun Tree War God, understand?" The Vermilion Bird Princess retorted in a crisp voice. "Oh," and Lin chimed in. He knew that he wasn't going to die, so he was fighting with the intent to die. There was nothing wrong with that. The Vermilion Bird Princess glared at Lin upon seeing his expression. She was just about to say something when a thought suddenly occurred to her, and she pursed her lips before speaking in a soft voice. "In any case, thank you for what you did at the arena." "You're welcome. It's my duty." And Lin waved his hand in a gentlemanly manner before asking, "Speaking of which, Vermilion Bird Princess, why are you here?" The Vermilion Bird Princess blinked with a smile. "Let me tell you a secret. I'm actually a descendant of the Vermilion Bird tribe, and I'm a very powerful one. This is my home, so no one knows that I've snuck into the arena to play. Except for you." And Lin rolled his eyes. "You have a lot of free time on your hands?" The Vermilion Bird Princess nodded vigorously. "That's right. I have a lot of free time." A thought then seemed to occur to her, and she pursed her lips. "It's a pity that the Vermilion Bird Princess is already dead. The next time I go to the arena, I'll have to transform into a different form." Gasp! And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. "You still want to participate in the competition?" "I'm bored to death in the Sun Tree, so I have to do something." The Vermilion Bird Princess smiled with excitement. "Let me tell you, I'm going to participate in the competition in 100 different forms and obtain 100 titles of the Sun Tree War God. After that, I'll fill the entire Battle God Shrine with 100 different forms." What do you think of this plan?" And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as his eyes widened in shock. What a breathtaking plan! A smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face upon hearing Lin's words, as if she had just heard the best compliment in the world. The two of them were like old friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time, and it was very natural. Perhaps this was a case of no discord, no concord. They had both acknowledged each other in their hearts, and it was as if they were heroes who shared a similar bond. "You said you want to participate in the competition in different forms, so which one is the real you?" The Vermilion Bird Princess, standing before me, isn't a fake either, is she? "No, this is the real me. This is one of my 2 essential forms." "Then what's your other form? Can you let me see it?" No way." "All right." And Lin was a little dejected before asking, "But why do you keep staring at the arena?" "Because the arena is the only place where the Sun Tree is fun. Can't you go outside the Sun Tree to play? The world outside is so vast, and there are so many things to play with." A dejected expression appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face upon hearing Lin's words. After a moment of silence, the Vermilion Bird Princess replied, I can't leave the sun tree for some reason, can't leave the sun tree. And Lin muttered to himself. All of a sudden, a thought flashed through his mind like a bolt of lightning. He had heard that the guardian of the sun tree was unable to leave the sun tree for some reason, and the Vermilion Bird Princess was also unable to leave the sun tree. The guardian of the sun tree was very mysterious. The Vermilion Bird Princess was also very mysterious. Even a return to Void Stage Vermilion Bird referee didn't recognize her, let alone the spectators. It could be said that the Vermilion Bird Princess identity was a mystery. The biggest secret of the Sun Tree was most likely the guardian of the Sun Tree. Could it be? And Lin raised his head and swallowed as he looked at the adorable young woman in front of him. The Vermilion Bird Princess was the guardian of the Sun Tree. Chapter 945. The Vermilion Bird Princess was the guardian of the Sun Tree. This was not an unreasonable speculation. In fact, it could be said that this was a very high possibility. And Lin stared at the young woman before him with a hint of desire in his eyes. The method to obtain the first stage of the Yang God cultivation method was to find the guardian of the Sun Tree and make mouth-to-mouth contact with the Sun Tree before activating the engulfment technique to absorb the essential power of Yang from the Sun Tree. The Vermilion Bird Princess seemed to have noticed Lin's scorching gaze, and she silently took a step back with a cautious expression. What are you thinking about? And Lin coughed lightly. Didn't you say that you wanted to thank me for what I did at the arena? The Vermilion Bird Princess nodded. And Lin took 2 steps forward and looked at the young woman who was standing right in front of him. She had a set of large eyes, an intricate nose, and delicate cherry lips. She looked adorable and pure, yet full of vitality. Just words of gratitude are not enough. I want a present. And Lin smiled. What present? The Vermilion Bird Princess hesitated for a few seconds before looking up at the man before her. And Lin swallowed before wrapping his arms around the Vermilion Bird Princess' slender waist. You? A crisp, pleasant voice had only just escaped her mouth before it was sealed off. And Lin was caught off guard and kissed her. The Vermilion Bird Princess' lips were a little cool and sweet, as if she had just bathed in the water of Truine. The Vermilion Bird Princess was dumbstruck, and her eyes widened in shock. And Lin knew that he only had an instant of opportunity, and he immediately activated his engulfment technique. That's right, this was the most aggressive method, but it had the highest success rate. He didn't have much time left, and if he chose to slowly nurture her feelings, he would most likely fail. He wouldn't be able to overcome this psychological barrier, and he would be letting down the Vermilion Bird Princess. Besides, he didn't know how to pick up a bird. If he forced a kiss on her, it would be very sudden, but it had the highest success rate. Furthermore, the Vermilion Bird Princess was his friend, so he probably wouldn't be beaten to death. Time passed by very quickly, but it also felt like an eternity. This kiss was a sudden memory for Lin. This was even more of a surprise to the Vermilion Bird Princess. The Vermilion Bird Princess' body stiffened a little, and Lin used the engulfment spell, but discovered something shocking, and that was he was unable to absorb the Sun Tree's essential Yang energy. Yes, there was no reaction. Could it be that his posture was wrong? And Lin thought for a moment, then stretched out his tongue to pry open her lips and touch the girl's white teeth. The Vermilion Bird Princess shuddered, and she finally came to her senses before abruptly pushing Lin away. And Lin was greeted by the sight of the Vermilion Bird Princess trembling as she stared at him. Her intricate features were as red as a ripe apple. Vermilion Bird Princess, this is the present I wanted. And Lin felt like something was amiss, as if he had mistaken her for someone else, so he forced himself to speak. The air froze in that instant. The Vermilion Bird Princess had appeared in front of Lin again, and she kicked her other leg through the air, leaving a crimson afterimage in her wake. So fast, and Lin's pupils contracted. He had no time to evade, and the red high heel landed heavily on his lower abdomen. Boom! Space exploded, and an indescribable force came crashing down with earth-shattering force. And Lin could hear his bones shattering and his internal organs shattering. Pwah! He threw up a mouthful of blood as his body flew through the air before crashing into the wall of white vines. The boundless force of the collision made the entire sun tree tremble, and Lin fell to the ground, and his body curled up into a ball from the excruciating pain. The body of the war god that he was so proud of had been broken by the Vermilion Bird Princess with a single kick. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even more powerful now than she was at the arena. Pervert! Shameless pervert! The Vermilion Bird Princess was enraged, and she looked like she was about to explode as she made her way toward Enlin. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. I was wrong. Enlin begged for mercy. The Vermilion Bird Princess gritted her teeth and became even more enraged upon hearing this. Misunderstanding? Irresponsible. Shameless. Scumbag. Enlin was just about to speak again when a red high heel appeared before him. Enlin, boom. This time, his chest caved in from the kick. However, this was not the end of the barrage. A torrential barrage of attacks rained down upon him. Thump, 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 bang, 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 clatter, 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 puff, puff, puff. How dare you take advantage of me? Die, 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 die. Ah, I'm going to beat you to death. Don't hit me here. Ah, my first kiss is gone. Die, 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 die. Ah, save me. At the end of the heart-examining lake, ghostly wails and thunderous collisions reverberated through the air. After what seemed like an eternity, the Vermilion Bird Princess was finally exhausted, and she sat down beside Enlin while panting heavily. Enlin's face was swollen and bruised, and there was not a single part of his body that was unscathed. If any other return to Void Stage mighty figure had been in his place, they would have died at least a dozen times over. The price of this kiss was a little high, and Enlin was extremely remorseful. Most importantly, he seemed to have kissed the wrong person. The Vermilion Bird Princess was most likely not the guardian of the Sun Tree. The Vermilion Bird Princess glared at Enlin with a cold expression. Why did you suddenly kiss me? It's a misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Enlin shook his head relentlessly. You have to listen to my explanation. All right, then explain, the Vermilion Bird Princess urged. This. Enlin faltered upon hearing this. How was he supposed to explain this? He had only said it in passing. The Vermilion Bird Princess' cheeks were still flushed, and her fists were clenched tightly, as if she were thinking about something. She suddenly asked upon seeing Enlin's expression, You like me? Enlin's expression shifted drastically. I really don't. Don't misunderstand. I swear on my integrity. The Vermilion Bird Princess' expression darkened. Which means you don't have any feelings for me, yet you forced a kiss on me. You're playing with my feelings? Misunderstanding. Listen to me. Pwah. Enlin yelled at the top of his lungs, but he didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence before a ferocious fist and a pair of terrifying red high heels flew toward him. Thump, 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 bang, bang, bang. Clatter, 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 clatter. Puff, puff, puff. Enlin's severely wounded body was ravaged again, and he let loose a string of blood-curdling cries. The intense battle that he had envisioned did not take place, as he didn't have the power to fight the Vermilion Bird Princess at all. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even using her power of the King Divine Tao after a torrential storm. Enlin lay lifelessly on the ground with wounds riddled all over his body. It hurt, it really hurt. The Vermilion Bird Princess wasn't holding back at all. She really was beating him to death. The Vermilion Bird Princess stomped down on Enlin with a frosty expression. If you still view me as a friend, then answer my questions honestly. Why did you kiss me? Chapter 946. Why did he kiss her? There was no way to explain this. If he really did explain, then wouldn't all of his plans be exposed? If he told the truth, then he wanted to kiss the guardian of the Sun Tree? He would probably be beaten to death by the Vermilion Bird Princess. Enlin looked at the Vermilion Bird Princess with an aggrieved expression. This was not an act. He really was feeling very aggrieved, and he couldn't even speak about it. The Vermilion Bird Princess pursed her lips and harumphed as she removed her foot from Enlin's chest. She pressed her legs together and knelt down beside Enlin with an angry expression. Is there something you can't tell me? Enlin was almost moved to tears upon hearing this. That's right. If I could tell you, I definitely wouldn't hide it from you. I had no intention of toying with your emotions. But you did kiss me. The Vermilion Bird Princess was still very angry. And Lynn, this girl was very shy at times, but she was very straightforward, very brave, and very shrewd when it came to emotions. Thus, the two of them fell into silence. And Lynn pulled out the Blood Soul Jade coffin and swallowed a spirit pill as he lay down in the coffin. The blush on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face gradually faded as she stared at Lynn with her large, bright eyes. Shamelesson, I think you should give me a reasonable explanation and compensation. After all, my consciousness has been severely wounded. And Lynn looked at the Vermilion Bird Princess with a resigned expression. You've already hit me and yelled at me. Are you still not satisfied? What the hell do you mean by your consciousness being severely wounded? The Vermilion Bird Princess chuckled lightly. Think about it. If you were kissed by a pig, would you think nothing would happen to you? Lynn, why did that sound so hurtful? The Vermilion Bird Princess blushed slightly as she pursed her lips. Of course, it's not as serious as I'm making it sound, but that's the gist of it. So you have to tell me your motive for kissing me. That's right, there was always a motive for everything. Even if you say that you like me and can't help yourself, I'll accept it. As the young girl spoke, her voice gradually became softer. And Lynn instantly tensed up upon hearing this. He was a very cautious person when it came to relationships, so he naturally wasn't going to admit that he liked the Vermilion Bird Princess. That would make him a scumbag who played with emotions. No. He shook his head and looked at the tired and lonely woman in front of him. His gaze was firm as he said, Forget it. I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. I choose to be honest. After that, you can continue to beat me and scold me, and I'll accept it. But you have to promise that you won't tell other living beings about this. The Vermilion Bird Princess nodded without hesitation. All right, swear it. And Lynn was still worried. The Vermilion Bird Princess extended her index and middle finger without hesitation and made a vow to her Tao heart. It didn't matter whether she told the others or not. She just wanted to know the truth. And Lynn took a deep breath before coming clean. I actually have a cultivation method that requires me to kiss the guardian of the sun tree in order to successfully cultivate it. If I can't kiss the guardian of the sun tree after 10 days, I'll become a retard. I kissed you before because I thought you were the guardian of the sun tree. I'm sorry, Vermilion Bird Princess. He apologized sincerely again. The Vermilion Bird Princess fell into a slight daze, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. So that's how it is. Did you get the wrong person? Your answer is a little bizarre, but it makes sense. A thought then occurred to her, and she turned to Lynn with incredulity on her face. You want to kiss the guardian of the sun tree? The Vermilion Bird Princess stared at Lynn as if he were a lunatic. And Lynn had anticipated this reaction, and he nodded calmly. That's right. I have to do this in order to not become a retard. The Vermilion Bird Princess, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. The Vermilion Bird Princess looked at Lynn, and her expression softened significantly. However, you're very honest to tell me about this. At the very least, you don't view me as an enemy. I don't want to lie to you. And Lynn smiled. Friends should be more honest with each other. He was actually taking a gamble on something. Friends? The Vermilion Bird Princess expression shifted slightly. That's right. We don't get to know each other if we don't fight. And Lynn nodded. At the same time, he added in his heart, even though he could only take the beating now. The Vermilion Bird Princess' eyes flashed, and a faint smile appeared on her face, as if she had thought of something fun. She turned to Lynn with a serious expression. Are you really going to kiss the guardian of the sun tree? I can't help it. And Lynn wore a concerned expression. Seeing as that's the case, we're friends now, and friends should help one another. I know of a secret passageway nearby that can lead to the 9th level, and you can meet the guardian of the sun tree there. The Vermilion Bird Princess said in a mysterious voice. And Lynn was ecstatic to hear this. That's great. You really are my lucky star, Vermilion Bird Princess. No problem. We'll set off after you recover from your injuries. The Vermilion Bird Princess replied with a dainty smile. But I can't show my face, so don't give me away. Also, if you encounter any difficulties on the 9th level, you have to deal with them yourself. I can't help you. And Lin nodded emphatically. I understand. Don't worry. The Vermilion Bird Princess storage ring flashed, and a shimmering white fruit appeared in her hand. She tossed the fruit to Enlin. Have one. It's good for replenishing yang and blood. This. Enlin detected the aura of the fruit to find that it was a 7th grade immortal fruit. You're so generous? I did beat the crap out of you. After all, so this sun fruit from the 7th level is my compensation, the Vermilion Bird Princess said with a nonchalant expression. And Lin also felt bad for himself, so he lay down on the coffin and ate the fruit. The flavor of the sun fruit was very similar to that of an apple in that it was sweet and sour. The power of yang within the fruit transformed into a warm flow that flowed through his entire body, making him feel extremely comfortable. Not only did his flame power increase slightly, but even his injuries were healing at an extremely fast rate. It's delicious. And Lin couldn't help but praise. Hee hee, I still have a lot of sun fruits. I'll give you 1 or 2 when I'm in a good mood, the Vermilion Bird Princess said with a smug expression. Vermilion Bird Princess, you're my friend for sure. And Lin spoke with a serious expression. Not long after that, and Lin's injuries were completely healed. The Vermilion Bird Princess led the way with light footsteps, and Lin trailed behind her. The two of them passed by the small lake that the Vermilion Bird Princess had bathed in and traveled upstream along a small stream. After passing through 7 restrictions, they finally arrived at a gate with ripples all over it. Even within Lin's powerful divine sense, he was unable to see through the gate to see what was going on inside. The Vermilion Bird Princess dragged Lin through the gate. After a rush of dizziness, they arrived on a black continent. There were many places with colorful immortal energy revolving around them, as if they were glowing pearls in the dark night. There were also all types of areas with extremely powerful energy fluctuations emanating from them, which appeared to be special mystic realms. The Vermilion Bird Princess didn't stop. She dragged Lin into a white circle of light before attaching a pair of white wings onto his back. Shamelesson, with these wings, you won't have to worry about the sun tree's flight restriction anymore. It can carry you to the 9th level, so good luck. The Vermilion Bird Princess waved farewell with a smile. Thank you, Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin was extremely touched. It could be said that this woman had provided him with the most crucial assistance in freeing him from his mental retardation. He would remember this kindness. The white wings began to flap, and Lin slowly rose into the air. The Vermilion Bird Princess finally pulled out a projection crystal after Lin disappeared from her field of vision. She licked her lips with a sly expression. Shamelesson, you didn't expect me to install a recording crystal on my wings, did you? The show is about to begin. I'm really looking forward to it. Hee. Chapter 9:47. Beside the heart-examining lake. Heitunga and Baishinga stared blankly at the white mist. They felt that fellow Taoist Lin was on his way back. Senior Baishinga, 2 hours have already passed, Heitunga said expressionlessly. Baishinga knew that his chances were slim, and a look of despair appeared on his face. I was wrong. I shouldn't have come here to compete with him. Senior, why are you apologizing to me? You should apologize to that person. Heitunga sighed. Fellow Taoist Lin and has most likely made it to the other side of the heart-examining lake, and it looks like he's most likely been beaten to death. Instead of being condemned by that person, why don't we take the initiative to admit our mistakes? Perhaps we'll receive a lesser punishment. Baishinga felt that this was reasonable. Let's go. Let's go apologize. Heitunga looked up at the vast expanse of white mist with a forlorn expression before extending a slight bow. Rest in peace, Mr. Lin, and Lin had gained a pair of wings that could allow him to soar into the sky. He was currently flying high, heading towards the 9th level. He was thinking about how to get a kiss from her on their first meeting. Pooh! It couldn't be said to be cheating. It was how to get a kiss. The guardian of the sun tree wasn't a Tao integration stage mythological beast, so even if he forced a kiss on it, it probably wouldn't die. However, if there was a more reliable method, he wouldn't refuse it. Everything could only be decided after they met and understood the specific situation. Soon, Lin passed through the thick white fog. The dazzling sunlight fell on his body, giving him a layer of golden brilliance. He looked up curiously and saw a very small piece of land. The land was only about 1/10 of the size of the seventh layer. The incomparably thick tree trunk became sharper and sharper at this point. After passing through the land, it shrank like a cone. Whether it was the trunk or the leaves, they had all turned transparent. And Lin landed on the ground of the 9th level. This continent was also made up of intertwining branches and leaves. Because the branches and leaves were transparent, he could even see the drifting clouds below. If it wasn't for the fact that he could feel the ground beneath his feet, he would have felt like he was walking on clouds. He looked around in confusion, but didn't find anything special. It was the center of the continent. Beside the closed trunk, there was a strange tree. The tree was transparent, but the fruits on it were translucent and iridescent. Strange. Where's the guardian of the sun tree? And Lin was quite confused as he walked toward the strange tree. What was very surprising was that after reaching within 100 feet of the sun tree, the omnipresent white mist around the sun tree strangely disappeared, as if it had never existed in the first place. Standing at the top of the sun tree, he could see the boundless landscape before him. The ground below was a vast expanse of green, and it was connected to the clear blue sky in the distance. In fact, one could even see the undulating mountain ranges in the extremely far distance. If one's vision was good enough, they might even be able to see the entire southern heavenly wing nation. He turned his gaze to his feet and opened his mouth slightly. His gaze pierced through the translucent 9th layer of the continent and saw a black circular continent. Outside the black circular continent was an even larger white ring. That was the portion of the 7th layer that was larger than the 8th layer. Beyond the 7th layer was the 6th layer's purple ring, followed by blue, red, yellow, orange, green. Every layer of the continent was a brightly colored ring. Due to the fact that the continent's surface area was progressively decreasing, from Lin's point of view, it had become a spectacular spectacle with colorful rings revolving around it, and it glowed with a mesmerizing light under the illumination of the sun. It was like a gargantuan rainbow lollipop. So beautiful. And Lin was stunned by this scene. Right? I also think this place is very beautiful. A very pleasant voice sounded from behind him, and Lin's body shuddered, and his heart was instantly filled with excitement. If there was another voice here, then it would definitely belong to the guardian of the sun tree. A friendly smile appeared on his face as he turned around. Hello, beautiful guardian of the sun tree. F*CK me. And Lin's smile gradually congealed as he stared blankly at the scene before him. Tens of thousands of mythological beasts stampeded over his heart, and he temporarily lost the ability to think. What had appeared before him was a golden fireball exuding an extremely scorching aura. The terrifying temperature imbued by the fireball was even making the surrounding space warp and shatter. If one ignored its white eyes and pink little mouth, this was a miniature sun. No, even if it had eyes and a mouth, it was still a sun that was half the size of a grown man. The flame energy was extremely pure, without the slightest bit of impurities. Only the flames of the sun could possess this type of attribute. And Lin's flesh crawled upon hearing this. Was the beautiful woman who had just spoken really the sun before him? Was her voice the sun? Who are you? He asked with difficulty. And who are you? The sun asked in a crisp voice. And Lin, tell me who you are first. The little sun. Why do I have to tell you first? I promise I'll tell you who I am after you tell me. And Lin replied with a serious expression. The little sun was caught off guard, and the fireball rolled downward as she nodded. I'm the guardian of the sun tree, Ili. And Lin's mouth gaped open as the final line of defense in his heart finally crumbled, and tears welled up in his eyes. Even though he had already guessed this, tears still flowed uncontrollably from his eyes after this possibility was confirmed. He was going to kiss his son? A peal of crisp laughter sounded from the black continent. The vermilion bird princess looked at the projection projected from her wings, and she doubled over in laughter at the sight of Lin's dumbstruck expression. It's your turn now. Who are you? Ili asked, and Lin came to his senses and took a deep breath. Hello, guardian. I am the new mythological beast of the sun tree, the Vermilion Birdman. I came here because I wanted to see you in person. PFFF. The Vermilion Bird Princess almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon seeing this. She stared at the crystal with an enraged expression. Shamelesson, where's your face? Only mythological beasts had the right to enter the 9th level, so Lin made up a lie. Illy was a little surprised. Another immortal beast from our sun tree has progressed to the Tao integration stage? This is fantastic news. How come I've never heard of this? Lin explained with a straight face. I only recently progressed to the Tao integration stage, so I haven't had a chance to announce this yet. Oh, Ellie nodded at the golden maid's head in disbelief. She circled around Lin as if she was inspecting him, and the scorching aura emanating from her body made the space around her twist and crumble. If a normal return to void stage mighty figure were standing here, they would most likely be melted by now. Thankfully, Lin had thick skin, but even so, the scorching heat was unbearable. Then how did you get up here? Even if you're a mythological beast of the sun tree, you have to request permission from me through the divine tree. Illy was still a little confused. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face as he made his way toward the shimmering, golden sun before tapping a finger on its cheek. I gained a pair of wings and flew into the sky in search of the light in my heart, only to encounter you. In other words, this is all fate. Illy's body shuddered upon hearing this, and the golden fireball became even more vibrant. Lin withdrew his finger with a smile, and his face convulsed. Even his body of the war god was unable to protect his finger, which had already been charred black. He looked at the little sun before him, and a string of curses ran through his heart again. For the first time, Lin developed a sense of fear toward a forced kiss. If he were to kiss her, he could die. Chapter 948. That's right, Lin had only poked Illy's face with a finger, and his finger had been char-black. If he really did kiss her, his face would probably be char-black. This was no joke. He really was going to die. Lin's heart was in turmoil, but he still maintained a smile on his face. Illy was a little embarrassed by Lin's words and actions. Perhaps it was because no one had ever done something like this to her before. A blush appeared on her face, and the surrounding temperature rose slightly again. Lin, he really couldn't afford to mess with her. All of a sudden, he seemed to have thought of something. Mistress Illy, I'm feeling a little hot. It's not very convenient for us to communicate like this. Can you transform into my form or lower the temperature? Yairi shook her head. How could I possibly do something like that? My true form is the golden crow, and I haven't reached the Tao integration stage yet, so my control over my body is very weak. As for lowering the temperature, that's even more impossible. Lowering the temperature would be equivalent to severing my own cultivation base. And Lin felt like a sword had been stabbed viciously into his heart upon hearing this. This was destroying his final path of retreat. F*CK off. System. F*CKU. And Lin roared in his heart. This F*King system was telling him to kiss the sun, burn him to death, or die from stupidity. Choose one. Choose my A*S. And Lin's expression suddenly became extremely sinister. Never would he have thought that his encounter with the guardian of the sun tree on the 9th level would lead to this outcome. The all-knowing crow had said that the guardian of the sun tree was a female, and Lin had been elated for a long time. Thank God it wasn't a male. In the end, it was a female, but it was a F*King female son. And Lin felt like he was about to go insane. Illy was given a fright by the changes in Lin's expression, and she flew toward Lin with a concerned expression. What's wrong? Great Sparrow Man. The two of them were inches apart. Terrifying temperatures swept toward him, and Lin's hair began to combust. And Lin, oh, I'm sorry. Yairi apologized profusely before putting some distance between them. And Lin used a water spell to extinguish the flames on his head. His long hair became curly. You deserve a free perm. Fortunately, his hair was tough, and he had the god body to protect him. Otherwise, he would have become bald in just a blink of an eye. It doesn't matter. This has nothing to do with you. It's my hair that's too disappointing. And Lin smiled, indicating that he didn't care. Yairi, why do these words sound so bitter? Oh, right. Yairi suddenly remembered something and flew toward the transparent tree at the center. Lin looked at Lee's departing figure with a perplexed expression, unsure of what it was going to do. Yairi's sun body split into two tentacles and plucked two translucent rainbow fruit from the tree before handing them to Lin. Here, this was the ninth floor sun fruit, the 9 blazing Truyong fruit. According to convention, all newly advanced mythological beasts of the sun tree have the right to obtain 2 9-flame Truyong fruits. And Lin fell silent as he looked at the first-rank immortal fruits before him. He was on the verge of becoming mentally handicapped or being burned to death. So these 2 high-rank immortal fruits were unable to stir up even a single ripple in his heart. The Vermilion Bird Princess jumped to her feet upon seeing this. Holy F***CK. I forgot about this. D***M in it. Shameless and is getting lucky. The 9-flame Truyong fruit was the most valuable fruit produced by the sun tree. It absorbed the purest power of the sun and only appeared once every 9,999 years. It was close to the level of a divine fruit and was priceless, even for Tao integration stage mythological beasts. And Lin couldn't even be bothered to look at it as he slapped the fruit away. This isn't what I want. Yairi turned to Lin with a hint of surprise on her face. This was the first time she had seen a super mighty figure who wasn't interested in the 9-flame Truyong fruit. Thinking back, the 9-color divine Vermilion Bird had only reluctantly given the 9-flame Truyong fruit to the Vermilion Bird after acting spoiled and adorable for several hundred years. However, the man before her didn't even look at a fruit of this caliber. How refreshing and unpretentious. Then what do you want? Yairi couldn't help but ask. And Lin looked at Yairi with a resolute expression. I want a kiss. A kiss? Yairi blinked with confusion. Kiss who? A kiss, and Lin replied. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Yairi's mouth gaped open as she stared blankly at Lin. Boom! He activated his origin energy of the netherworld, and his power instantly soared to new heights. His holy vermilion flame and 6 divine flames were activated at the same time to enshroud his body. After being enshrouded by the flames, Lin did everything he could to keep Yairi's scorching heat at bay. He and Yairi were like 2 different little suns. Yairi didn't even have a chance to react before a pair of hands pressed down onto her body, upon which a soft sensation came from her lips. One man and one ball kissed one another, and time seemed to have frozen in that instant. The Vermilion Bird Princess immediately jumped up. Holy F***CK. He really dares to kiss me. And Lin could feel the terrifying heat threatening to melt his body, and he immediately activated his engulfment technique. There was no time for hesitation. Sometimes you are only one instant away from success. And Lin's hair and clothes were all set ablaze by the scorching heat, and the unbearable heat from his lips threatened to burn him to death. He lost all sensation in the next instant. However, he was still like a moth flying toward a flame, and he didn't give up. And Lin and Yairi's flames clashed, and boundless light and heat swept forth in all directions. The dazzling flames at the center were even more dazzling than the sun in the sky. The purest power of flames flowed into Lin's body through his mouth, and his entire body was elevated to a higher level. Ding dong! Congratulations, host, mission accomplished. You have successfully absorbed the essential power of Yang from the Sun Tree, instilling the Yang God cultivation method now. It was also at this moment that Ellie let out a soft moan, as if something soft had been touched. She seemed to have finally come to her senses, and her entire body turned from golden flames to platinum flames. In the end, she was unable to control her power, and her power erupted. Boom! The flames instantly exploded, incinerating everything in their path, and the entire 9th level tremored violently from the violent impact. And Lin's naked body was blasted into the sky. His mouth was charred and swollen, and his entire body was charred beyond recognition. He was like a rag as he flew through the air in a parabolic arc before plummeting toward the ground. Right at the most critical moment, Yairi arrived, just in time, and she caught Lin in her arms with a blush on her face. Terrifying heat swept forth again, threatening to melt him. And Lin, as his consciousness blurred, he felt like that kiss was one that he would never forget for the rest of his life. The degree of stimulation was 5 stars. In the end, he fainted from the scorching heat. Before he fainted, he roared in his heart, "Please, don't hug me anymore. I really don't want to be burned to death." Chapter 949. Illy finally realized what she had done. If she continued to hug Lin like this, Lin was going to be crushed to death. She immediately tossed Lin aside in fear. Thump! Lin's charred body fell to the ground, where it lay completely motionless. "Ah, are you all right, Great Sparrow Man?" Illy's heart jolted with shock as she flew toward Lin and immediately unleashed a spell technique to assess Lin's condition. She heaved a long sigh of relief upon seeing that there was still a heartbeat. Illy unleashed a healing technique upon Lin almost without any hesitation. "Geez, the Great Sparrow Man. He kissed me all of a sudden. That was way too sudden. What was he thinking? And why did he kiss me so decisively?" Illy's heart rate accelerated as a blush appeared on her face at the thought of what had just happened. "Oh my, how embarrassing." Boom! Illy exploded again, and Lin's charred body was blasted into the air again. "Ah, Great Sparrow Man. I'm sorry." Illy let loose a cry of surprise before rushing over to catch the plummeting Lin in her arms. Scorching temperatures began to melt Lin's body again. On the Black Continent, the Vermilion Bird Princess lips twitched as she looked at Lin's body being whipped relentlessly. She silently covered her eyes with her hands. She simply couldn't bear to look at Lin's pitiful state. "Don't hate me. How was I supposed to know that you would actually kiss the sun?" The Vermilion Bird Princess heaved a faint sigh as she looked at the wretched Lin. However, even though he knew that the guardian of the sun was the sun, he still kissed it without any hesitation. This proves that he wasn't lying to me. With this in mind, the Vermilion Bird Princess' eyes shimmered, and a faint smile appeared on her face. Amidst the haziness, a long time seemed to have passed, and Lin's entire body was burning with pain, and he opened his eyes with great difficulty. He was greeted by a vast expanse of golden light, and he couldn't see anything else. Oh, so it was because Illy's body was too big and too bright, and it almost blinded him for the second time. "Ah, Great Sparrow Man, you're finally awake." A joyful smile appeared on Yairi's face upon seeing Lin open his eyes, and her entire body became even more radiant. And Lin looked at Illy, whose body had become brighter, and his legs went weak. He begged, "Please, please don't be agitated." Yairi and Lin seemed to have been crippled by the explosion. Apart from being able to speak with difficulty, his flesh, bones, and meridians were all shattered by the impact of the light and heat of the explosion. Illy was unleashing a relentless stream of healing spell techniques on him. But at this rate of recovery, it appeared that he wouldn't be able to recover even after half a month. That's right, he had paid a much heavier price for kissing Illy than he had for kissing the Vermilion Bird Princess. He was already traumatized by the act of forcibly kissing. "Great Sparrow Man, why did you kiss me?" Ellie's voice became lower and lower as she spoke, as if she was shy. She looked at the naked Lin and shyly looked elsewhere. And Lin didn't mind being seen naked by Illy. Was it like running naked under the setting sun? How would it feel to be seen naked by the sun in the sky? What a joke. This was like being seen naked by the shower head when you were taking a bath. If you really felt shy, then you were probably a pervert. Of course, the sun had a life of its own, and it was a female one, so it was a little different. However, Lin didn't mind this difference. As for why the female sun had kissed him, Lin didn't want to answer. He couldn't think of a good excuse at the moment. Illy's blush became even more intense upon seeing Lin's silence. Lin's body shuddered upon seeing this, and he was starting to get a little scared. He recalled back to the horror of Illy's self-detonation. Was this little sun imagining something crazy? Calm down first and don't think too much. Lin immediately spoke in fear. Illy nodded, and flames materialized into a pair of hands before handing the 9-flame True Yang fruit to Lin again. This is for you." And Lin's head throbbed at the sight of the fruit. "No, I can't accept this immortal fruit. Didn't I tell you already? You can exchange it with your kiss." He was a mythological beast who had only come here to kiss the little son, so he wasn't shameless enough to accept these two precious fruits for free. Ely didn't expect Lin to reject her good intentions again, and she became even more excited. "Why did you kiss me? Why are you willing to pay such a heavy price to do something like this to me?" She was very excited, not because she was angry, but because of some kind of indescribable emotion. No living being has ever been willing to get so close to me. Regardless of whether it's the flowers, birds, insects, fish, or even mythological beasts, none of them are willing to have intimate contact with me because I'm too hot. But you. The more Ely spoke, the more excited she became, and the flames around her body became even more scorching. And Lin's attention was drawn back again. They had agreed to wait until he recovered from his injuries, so why was she bringing this up again? Was Ely always so impatient? However, in all honesty, even though Ely had injured him, that wasn't her intention. On the contrary, Ely was still doing everything in her power to heal him even after he had been severely wounded, and he was extremely touched by this. If Ely were to beat him up again while he was unconscious, then perhaps he really would have died under the sun tree. The guardian of the sun tree really was unexpectedly gentle. Perhaps he should make Ely happier? And Lin's heart stirred, and he cleared his throat. A moth pursues light and sees the beauty of flames, so it pounces toward them without any hesitation. I also like light, and I saw the beauty of light and heat emanating from your body, so I wanted to express my love for light with a kiss. What he was implying was that he liked Ely's flames, which was different from her true body. That would be a compliment to Ely, and it would also explain why he had kissed her, so he should be able to fool her. And Lin was then greeted by the sight of Ely's body becoming brighter and brighter. "Calm down. Calm down." And Lin almost roared. Boom! The 9th level tremored again. The light from the explosion illuminated the sun tree, and a charred body was blasted into the sky again. "Ah, I'm sorry, great Vermilion Birdman." Ely knew that she had lost control again, and she hugged the plummeting Lin with a guilty expression. And Lin was in despair as he felt the scorching heat threatening to melt him, and he fainted again. Being in close contact with the sun was an extremely painful experience. Ely came to her senses, and she immediately tossed Lin's body far away in fright. Thump! And Lin tumbled to the ground before sprawling onto his stomach. The Vermilion Bird Princess covered her eyes with her hands. Sigh. Why does Shameless like to court death so much? If you continue to seek death like this, what if you accidentally die? She hesitated for a long time as she looked at the dying man on the crystal screen. In the end, she gritted her teeth and made a decision. Chapter 950. Everything was blurry and indistinct, and Lin discovered that he had been trapped in a furnace with boundless scorching flames burning his body, and he couldn't help but cry out in pain from the scorching pain. A bucket of cold water suddenly poured over him, drenching him from head to toe. What was it like to have a piece of hot metal suddenly poured over with cold water? And Lin's body sizzled and spasmed, and he completely fainted from the pain. Within the darkness, he gradually regained consciousness, and an extremely warm and refreshing feeling enshrouded his body. The terrifying, scorching pain seemed to have disappeared, and he felt as if he had fallen into a warm embrace. His entire body was so comfortable that he didn't want to get up. However, Lin still forced his eyes open. He was not greeted by the blinding fireball. Instead, he was greeted by a faint white light that was cool and gentle. This is... Lin's heart jolted as he sat up from the water. He looked around at his surroundings with astonishment. This was far too familiar. Wasn't this the heart-examining lake where he had encountered the Vermilion Bird Princess for the second time? And he was lying in the lake where the Vermilion Bird Princess had bathed. Shamelesson, you're finally awake. A pleasant voice suddenly sounded, and Lin turned toward the white mist, and an adorable young woman walked out from it before staring intently at Lin's body with her big, bright eyes. And Lin only came to his senses now. He was completely nude, He immediately pulled out a set of clothes from his storage ring and changed into them in the blink of an eye. Boy, you're the shameless one. You're the first person to look at my body in such a blatant manner. The Vermilion Bird Princess pursed her lips upon hearing this. Illy is the first, all right? She then continued. Also, you've seen Illy's naked body. Why don't you admit that you're a shameless pervert? You have to take responsibility for her. Gasp. And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as his eyes widened. I've seen a F***king naked fireball, and that counts as seeing Illy's naked body? Responsibility, my A***guess. Where's the justice in this world? He then realized something, and he exclaimed in shock, Wait, wasn't I on the 9th level? How did you get me back here? The Vermilion Bird Princess harumphed lightly as she raised her beautiful oval face. You were blasted half-dead by Illy, and Illy couldn't think of a way to save you. She knew that this lake on the 7th level had rich Een-type power, which was very effective in treating burns, so she brought you here. And Lin nodded with a skeptical expression upon hearing this. At the same time, he realized that the dream he had during his unconsciousness really was a reality. Don't think that you won't feel pain just because you're asleep. That kind of body would still remember the pain. Thank you, Vermilion Bird Princess. No matter what, and Lin still expressed his gratitude. The Vermilion Bird Princess waved a hand with a nonchalant expression. You've been lying in my lake for 5 or 6 days now, and you've basically recovered from your injuries. You're no longer the guardian of the sun tree. And Lin paused for a few seconds before speaking. Vermilion Bird Princess, aren't you curious about why I'm going to kiss the guardian of the sun tree? One had to realize that the Vermilion Bird Princess was very excited about this. However, the Vermilion Bird Princess didn't seem to be interested in the slightest. Something was definitely wrong. A dumb smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face. I was too busy treating your injuries to ask about it. She widened her bright eyes and asked curiously, What happened to you? Did you kiss the guardian of the sun tree? How did it feel? I don't have the right to see the guardian of the sun tree. She was the one who teleported you into this lake. I was really scared at the time. Did she hit you? The Vermilion Bird Princess cocked her head to the side with a curious and innocent expression. And Lin felt as if a sword had been stabbed into his heart upon hearing her last sentence, and he recalled back to the horror of being dominated by Illy's flames. Illy didn't hit him, but it was even more terrifying. He forced a smile onto his face. I did, but it didn't feel too bad. I was blasted a few times by accident. After giving a few more perfunctory replies, he decided to leave. He had completed his mission, so there was no reason for him to stay here any longer. I'm going now, Vermilion Bird Princess. If you ever come to the Kingdom of the 9 States, you can contact me. And Lin waved goodbye. You're leaving just like that? You're not going to stay and play around with the sun tree? The Vermilion Bird Princess took a couple of steps forward and looked up at Lin. No, I still have a lot of things to take care of. And Lin shook his head with a smile. By the way, let's exchange voice transmission talismans first. Sure. The Vermilion Bird Princess agreed without hesitation. The two of them injected their auras into the voice transmission talismans. And Lin didn't linger any longer, and he bade farewell to the beautiful woman in a colorful dress. Goodbye, Vermilion Bird Princess. The woman harumphed lightly before turning away. Shameless, and do you know how dangerous it is to force a kiss on a girl now? I hope you learn from that. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Was she still trying to stab him in the back? Goodbye, Lin, and the extremely pleasant voice sounded again. Goodbye, Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin stepped onto the heart-examining lake and began to make his way back. He turned to look at the woman behind him as he prayed in his heart. Goodbye, 9-color divine Vermilion Bird. The battle at the arena and the inheritance bestowed upon him by the 9-color divine Vermilion Bird had only raised some suspicions in his mind. However, the encounter at the heart-examining lake, where he was pummeled without being able to put up any resistance, as well as the fact that he knew about going to the 9th level, had completely verified the Vermilion Bird Princess identity. The Vermilion Bird Princess looked on as his figure disappeared into the white mist, and she prayed in her heart. Goodbye, Lin. She had already guessed Enlin's identity after that battle at the arena. However, the two of them tacitly chose not to expose each other and got along as friends. Enlin walked over the surface of the lake and passed through bursts of white mist before finally arriving at the entrance of the heart-examining lake. Huh, have Haitanga and Baishinga already disappeared? He looked around. Unbeknownst to him, the two of them were extremely anxious as they waited for Enlin to return. They had thought that Enlin had already been slapped to death by the nine-colored divine vermilion bird for trespassing on her territory. They had already turned themselves in a long time ago, so why would they wait here like idiots? Sigh. I remember that Baishinga lost to me, and he still owes me 3 sun immortal fruits from the 7th level. Now that he's gone, who am I going to ask for the fruits from? What a loss. Enlin heaved a faint sigh before making his way out of the cave. The sun immortal fruits were actually quite useful, and it would be a good idea to bring 1 or 2 for fire-type cultivators like Xiaolan to try. As soon as he made his way out of the cave, he was greeted by the sight of a huge parrot standing at the entrance. The parrot spoke in perfect Tai Chu language. "Excuse me, are you Cultivator and of the Great Sparrow Forest?" Cultivator and of the Great Sparrow Forest? What the F***CK was that? Enlin's face convulsed slightly, and he nodded with a resigned expression. "I am. What can I do for you?" Chapter 9:51. The huge parrot smile became even more genuine upon hearing this. "It's like this. I was entrusted by my master to give you these 2 storage rings." Enlin accepted the storage ring, and after refining it, he began to read through its contents. There were 3 white fruits within the first storage ring, all of which were glowing with a dazzling light. These were the sun immortal fruits from the 7th level of the sun tree, the daytime fruit. These were 5th grade immortal fruits that could increase the purity of one's flame power, enhance one's life force, and quickly replenish one's blood. Looks like Baishinga still has a conscience after all to send someone here to return the items. A smile appeared on Enlin's face as he looked at the second storage ring. He faltered upon seeing what was inside. There was only 1 item within the storage ring, which was a semi-transparent rainbow fruit. This was the sun fruit from the 9th level of the sun tree, the 9-flame true yang fruit. This was a 1st grade immortal fruit. There was also a note on it. "Great Sparrow Man, I know you're not a new Dao integration stage mythological beast, but that's all right. I've decided to give this immortal fruit to you. Because of your courage and because of your unspeakable reasons, I can forgive you for lying to me. I hope I can see the real you next time." Signed, Ili, Enlin. Enlin suddenly felt like he had reached the pinnacle of his life. To be favored by the sun and make the sun turn green. This was probably unprecedented, Sai. The kindness of the sun is the hardest to bear. He heaved a faint sigh before stowing the storage ring into his own storage ring and continuing onward. Perhaps one day, he would be able to do something for them to repay their kindness. However, the most important thing now was to go back and work hard to earn money. A man should prioritize his career above all else. Only with power and money would he have the right to speak, and only then would he be able to live a happy and harmonious life. Enlin returned the way he came, and he encountered many vermilion bird tribe living beings along the way. To his surprise, these vermilion bird tribe living beings no longer raised their heads arrogantly. Instead, they were all looking at him with curiosity and reverence in their eyes. What had happened? Enlin had a puzzled look on his face, but he couldn't be bothered to ask in detail. He stepped on the bubble and descended toward the 6th floor without looking back. This trip to the southern Heavenly Wing Nation was extremely rewarding. Not only had he perfectly completed his mission, he had also received some wealth, a few good fruits, and the core inheritances of 5 mythological beasts. He had already obtained the Yang God cultivation method, and he had also mastered the move derived from the Yang God cultivation method, the fire melting technique. He could use it to perform the ever-changing fire magic. Now, he only lacked the Yin God cultivation method and the metal attribute divine weapon origin Qi cultivation method. This thing cannot be rushed. He could only wait for an opportunity. After arriving on the 6th level, and Lin found Shui Zhantian through a special connection with beast pets. Shui Zhantian was extremely excited. You're famous now. After many people learned of your performance in the arena, they all held you in high esteem and prostrated themselves before you. Some people even suggested putting your statue in the war god's temple, but this suggestion was rejected. And Lin was quite indifferent to all of this. It doesn't matter. Let the name Lin and become a legend. These achievements and glory have nothing to do with me anymore. Master is so indifferent to fame and fortune. Shui Zhantian was astonished. He felt like something was amiss. According to Master's usual style, he should have made Dabai admit his identity before leaving so that he could flex again. Master, did you see the guardian of the sun tree? Was she beautiful? Did your heart skip a beat? Did you kiss her? Shui Zhantian asked with curiosity in his eyes. And Lin shuddered at the mention of this. He had hit a sore spot. My heart skipped a beat. My A*S. Do you think about the end of the world when you see his sun? I kissed her. The guardian of the sun tree is beautiful enough to blind you. She's as beautiful as a celestial maiden, and she's devastatingly beautiful. In any case, you'll get to see her in the future. Perhaps you'll even get to kiss her, and Lin said with a sinister smile. Shui Zhantian recoiled in fright at the sight of Lin's expression. Leave her for Master to enjoy. I don't have the fortune to enjoy her. By the way, where's our gold medal tour guide? Old Cow? Lin asked. He's very popular right now. As the gold medal tour guide who took Fist God Lin on a tour around the sun tree, he's constantly telling everyone he met that he had taken Lin and on a tour. His reputation has skyrocketed, and he's showing signs of becoming the best tour guide on the sun tree. He's currently busy promoting his services everywhere, Shui Zhantian explained. And Lin rolled his eyes. This cow sure knows how to seize business opportunities. When a man attains the Tao, his friends and family will ascend to the heavens as well. Shui Zhantian lay in Lin's arms and pointed at the sky in the distance with one of his wings. Master, when will we be able to trample the heavens beneath our feet? When the heavens are beneath our feet, and Lin replied. The human and beast duo attracted countless pairs of eyes as they traveled, and Lin's appearance was no longer secret. Along the way, many proud birds turned to look at this legendary figure with reverence in their eyes. They strolled all the way from the 6th level of the sun tree to the 1st level before concluding their tour. Master, are we going back now? Shui Zhantian asked. There's no hurry. Let's go to the more chaotic border areas of the southern Heavenly Wing Nation and roam around for a while. And Lin replied. Half a month later, a legend began to spread throughout the southern Heavenly Wing Nation. There was a powerful being who liked to disguise himself as a new bee, and he was extremely powerful. He specialized in hunting down birds who liked to rob others. Hundreds of bird tribe powerful beings had already died at his hands, and all of them had suffered extremely gruesome fates. This incident created quite a stir in the hearts of the birds. Many bandit-like bird tribe powerful beings fled upon hearing the news and didn't dare to cause trouble again in fear that they would be the next ones to be killed. The chaotic public order of the southern Heavenly Wing Nation had been drastically improved by this strange being. Many birds were extremely grateful to this mysterious being. And Lin and Shui Zhantian's business gradually declined after over half a month of killing and robbing, and they finally left behind a legend in the southern Heavenly Wing Nation before reluctantly departing. They earned over 10 million spirit stones from this business, as well as all types of spirit fruits, spirit tools, materials, as well as the bodies of bird tribe powerful beings suitable for tool refinement and pill refinement. In other words, they had struck gold. We can finally return home in glory. A blissful smile appeared on Lin's face. Master, I've been eating spirit fruits for the past half a month, and I'm about to throw up. I want to eat immortal fruits. Shui Zhantian chewed on a spirit fruit as he spoke. And Lin rolled his eyes at Shui Zhantian. You're such a hypocrite. During these past few days, he had given many spirit fruits to Shui Zhantian to eat, and Shui Zhantian's return to Void Stage cultivation base was finally consolidated. If it were anyone else, they definitely wouldn't be willing to give so many spirit fruits to their beast pets, but filthy rich and didn't care. I'm back, Xiaolan. And Lin looked toward the direction of the celestial court with anticipation in his heart. Chapter 952. And Lin and Shui Zhantian returned to the celestial court, where they were familiar with each other. As the saying went, absence makes the heart grow fonder. After a period of separation, and Lin only wanted to see Su Xiaolan as soon as possible. Xiaolan, I'm back. That evening, and Lin knocked on the door of his dorm room. The door opened, and a beautiful woman with a pair of sparkling eyes appeared before him. And Lin, you're finally back. A vibrant smile appeared on the woman's face. Did you miss me? And Lin walked in with a smile before giving Su Xiaolan a big hug. And Lin was filled with a sense of contentment as he breathed in the faint fragrance of her body and basked in the familiar softness. Be more reserved. Little Tian is still here. Su Xiaolan discovered that Shui Zhantian was staring intently at her, and then Lin, with his big, round eyes and a faint blush, appeared on her face. Xiaolan, you can actually ignore me and treat me like a ball that doesn't exist, Shui Zhantian said in a calm voice. Shui Zhantian spoke in a calm voice before adding, in reality, there's a racial barrier between you and me, so I don't really feel anything from your exchange of emotions. He was only staring at Lin and Su Xiaolan because he wanted to see if Su Xiaolan's hair had turned green or if a green halo had appeared on her head. And Lin felt like Shui Zhantian was a hindrance, so he kicked him out the door. Master, you're ungrateful, cruel, and unscrupulous. You're abandoning me after you started. You called me little Tian when I went to the southern heavenly wing nation with you. But now you're kicking me away like a ball. Little Tian vented his negative emotions outside the door. And Lin couldn't be bothered to respond to Shui Zhantian, and he turned his eyes to the beautiful woman before him. Su Xiaolan was also staring at Lin with a hint of longing in her eyes. Their lips came into contact with each other, and a wonderful feeling spread through their bodies like an electric shock. It was like a fine wine brewed by immortals, and a sweet feeling spread throughout their bodies. And Lin was so touched that he was about to cry. This was a normal F*** kiss. Whatever terrifying experience of having iron in your mouth, get it out of my head. After a little intimacy, the two began to chat at the table. And Lin first talked about what he had seen in the southern heavenly wing nation. Of course, he had to skip over the Vermilion Bird Princess and Li. Firstly, it was too embarrassing, and secondly, he didn't want Xiaolan to get jealous and be punished by kneeling on a lava durian. Su Xiaolan's eyes also lit up upon hearing Lin's recount of the southern heavenly wing nation's robberies. It was quite clear that she also felt that it was quite feasible to pretend to be a newbie and then kill the robbers for their treasures. The southern heavenly wing nation has become a lot more tame now. Perhaps we'll be able to make some money there in a few years, Su Xiaolan suggested. And Lin nodded in agreement before asking, are there any other places on our continent that have a culture similar to the southern heavenly wing nation? Su Xiaolan pondered momentarily before replying. Let's not talk about the small powers. It's just a waste of time. As for first-rate powers, the Void Spirit Tribe and the sea monsters of the West Sea like to do this. And Lin's head throbbed upon hearing this. The Void Spirit Tribe is a bunch of maniacs. They don't need a reason to kill, and there are many maniacs and mighty figures out there, so it's too dangerous. As for the West Sea, that's too far away. The two of them thought about it for a moment before deciding to shelve this plan for now. Come on, Xiaolan, tell me about what you've learned from replacing me as the chef god. And Lin looked at Su Xiaolan with anticipation on his face. A smug smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face upon hearing and Lin mention her. Guess how many spirit stones I've earned in the past 30 days? And Lin pondered for a moment. The price of the specialty dishes he had auctioned had already dropped to over 200,000 spirit stones per dish. As the popularity and novelty of the dishes continued to wane, and as the excitement of the Cultivator tycoons died down, he estimated the price to stabilize at 200,000 spirit stones. Su Xiaolan's cooking skills were about the same as his. Even if she didn't beat Chef God Hu Jiahao with his guarantee and the reputation of the frying pan, there was still a chance that the price would stabilize at 200,000 spirit stones. And Lin didn't dare to guess too high in case he pressured her, so he gave a more conservative figure. 4 million spirit stones? 4 million spirit stones per month should be doable, right? No, no, no. Su Xiaolan shook her head and extended 2 fingers. And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath. Only 2 million spirit stones? If that was the case, then it would indeed be a loss. It would be better to sell stuffed buns ignored by Dubai and earn 100,000 spirit stones per day. That would be 3 million spirit stones per month. Su Xiaolan burst into laughter as she glared at Enlin. Am I as bad as you think I am? It's double. Double. Enlin's eyes widened in shock. 8 million spirit stones? Uh-huh. Su Xiaolan nodded with a smug expression. Enlin took a deep breath. You're earning more than me. How'd you do it? According to Enlin's previous calculations, even if he were to cook in person, he would only earn around 6 million spirit stones per month. Su Xiaolan was a chef who had yet to establish a reputation, yet she was able to earn 8 million spirit stones per month. How'd she do it? Su Xiaolan became even more smug at the sight of Enlin's incredulous expression. When I first took over your position, I indeed didn't sell as well as you did. My dish, which had a starting bid of 100,000 spirit stones, was only sold for 130,000 spirit stones. However, when that immortal tasted my dish, he was shocked and yelled that it was super delicious and not inferior to your dish in the slightest. The next day, after another immortal tasted my dish, he was even more enraged. He said that my dish was even more delicious than yours, and that it was definitely worth the price. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Pill refinement and cooking skills were interconnected. Su Xiaolan's pill refinement skills were not inferior to Enlin's to begin with. Furthermore, she was more meticulous and conscientious in her cooking, so perhaps her dishes really did taste better than his, but not by much. After that, the prices of my dishes became higher and higher, and my reputation also improved. I then decided to borrow this wave of praise from the immortals to announce that my cooking skills were better than yours. I told them that you personally admitted this, and that if I was second in cooking, you wouldn't dare to claim to be first. This finally caused a stir in the celestial court. My popularity rose once again, and I attracted the interest of many filthy, rich immortals. The prices of my dishes were even higher than yours. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. She was King stepping on his title to climb to the top. Scheming orchid, Su Xiaolan continued. After that, the elderly chef god of the celestial court couldn't take it anymore. Not only did he lose to you, he was ranked second for the time being. Now that I announced that I was better than you, wouldn't he be ranked third? He couldn't take this injustice. Hence, I received a challenge from the chef god. Lin, so you accepted the challenge and defeated him? Lin was speechless. Su Xiaolan nodded happily. That's right. I defeated him, and the popularity skyrocketed again, and the prices of my dishes rose to another level. Although the popularity died down a few days later, we still earned 8 million spirit stones in this month. Xiaolan, you're really amazing. And Lin didn't know how to express his feelings anymore. He gave Su Xiaolan another big hug. This was a pleasant surprise. The money-making mission was completed above the target. She was a perfect wife. I think you should thank the chef god, Hu Jiahao. If he hadn't persisted in challenging us to a challenge, and then lost to show off our awesomeness, we wouldn't have earned so much. Su Xiaolan added. And Lin, the pitiful and adorable chef god, Hu Jiahao, was a resounding golden signboard. And Lin and Su Xiaolan were people who had stepped on his golden signboard to climb to the top. All right, we'll send gifts to the chef god next time to express our gratitude. And Lin said seriously. Ha ha, won't he be angered to death by us that way? Su Xiaolan couldn't help but laugh. The two of them were both sympathetic and amused by the chef god. They chatted happily from money-making to cultivation and completely forgot about the time. Chapter 9:53. And Lin was quite interested in the affairs of the Dark-Winged tribe, and he couldn't help but turn his gaze towards Su Xiaolan. Classmate and Lin, when I went to Big Sister Chong, for her tribulation transcendence, she asked me to pass on a message to you. She said that the divine pill refinement could be completed by the end of the year, Su Qinyan said. And Lin and Su Xiaolan pondered for a while and decided to hold another frying pan hot pot banquet to celebrate Big Brother Cheng's successful breakthrough to the soul formation stage. He silently raised his hand with a smile. Big Brother Cheng, I'll go. I have to consolidate my cultivation base, so I won't be going for now. Su Qinyan stuck out her tongue as she spoke in a mellow voice. It was especially interested in paintings of beautiful women in the mortal world that could move. In reality, this was just an excuse for him to give the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation specialties. When they first enrolled, Su Xiaolan was only of the 9th stage Dao body, while Xin Yuancheng and Su Qinyan were of the spirit nurturing stage. Su Xiaolan wouldn't accept gifts from him. Both of them could eat fruits that could enhance their flame power. Su Xiaolan didn't have the face to keep using Lin's cultivation resources. And Lin needed an excuse that would make Su Xiaolan feel at ease, and payment for her services was the perfect excuse. And Lin was quite happy and gave her 2 5th-grade immortal fruits from the Sun Tree, which were daytime fruits, as compensation for her services. In that case, both Su Qinyan and Big Brother Cheng are already at the soul formation stage. With the two of us at the soul formation stage, we're really very powerful. Even compared to all the students in the school since its founding, our lineup is considered the best. Xin Yuancheng and Su Qinyan were both prodigies who had just enrolled in the university, so how could they not be provoked? They also had their own pride, so they began to chase after Su Xiaolan with all their might. And Lin stowed the 8 million spirit stones that Su Xiaolan had earned into his storage ring. Miao Tian, Luo Zipping, and the others all shook their heads and rejected the mission. When Xin Yuancheng saw that there were 2 powerful helpers joining him, he felt relieved. The mission's safety was more guaranteed, and he was in a good mood. Who else wants to join? There's still one last spot. Brother Cheng's face was glowing as if he had changed into a different person. He was also especially friendly towards people. As an upperclassman, Tang Shiman's heart was crushed by the encouragement he was receiving from his junior. In the future, his earning speed might slow down a little, but earning 100 million in a year was no longer an empty dream. When Xin Yuancheng saw this, he sighed softly. Since none of you want to go, I'll go. At this moment, there were over 60 million spirit stones in his storage ring. This was all thanks to Tina, Xiaolan, the immortals of the Celestial Court, the Tribulation Transcendence Cultivators, and his friend from the Southern Heavenly Wing Nation. Senior Tang was under a lot of pressure. No one will wait for others on the path of Tao. We have to work hard as well. Xin Yuancheng patted Tang Shiman's shoulder with encouragement in his eyes. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes. You're the one who forced me to do this. The two of them were also rapidly growing in power, and they were benefiting immensely from this. Perhaps this was a virtuous cycle. All of the elites of Class 1 were gathered here, so there was no difference in asking them here. Senior Tang was surprised to hear this. And Lin, what do you want the divine pill for? Now that he had more money, he was also a man with confidence. He was already a 4th-year university student, but Su Xiaolan was already at the soul formation intermediate stage, while Xin Yuancheng and Su Qinyan had only just reached the soul formation stage. This was extremely exciting. You make it sound like you're not responsible. And Lin also chuckled. Hence, at the United University of Cultivation, Lin had become a legendary prodigy, while Su Xiaolan had become a legendary and inspirational prodigy. Even in the entire history of the United University of Cultivation, their achievements were extremely dazzling. We're still researching how to progress to the soul formation stage, but you're already researching how to progress to the return to void stage? Tang Shiman's eyes widened, and his hands trembled as he held his chopsticks. And Lin's chest constricted. Even though he was telling the truth, this was still a little too hurtful. Of course I can progress as in Lin's beast pet. Xin Yuancheng smiled. Wow, you're the best, Big Brother Cheng. You broke through in seclusion, just like that. Awesome. And Lin gave him a thumbs up with approval on his face. I've finally progressed to the soul formation stage, which means I've completed the goal I set when I first entered the university. I can finally graduate with a clear conscience. Xianyuan Chung sighed with emotion as a mesmerizing smile appeared on his handsome face. They weren't interested in the Dark Wing tribe, and aside from the rewards offered by the university, there weren't any other opportunities, so they didn't want to take the risk. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips, but she didn't deny this. That night, within the dorm room, a faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Leave the celestial quartz cooking to me. Don't worry, I'll be making more money than you anyway. Xianyuan Chung didn't seem to mind everyone's lack of interest, and a smile appeared on his face. Seeing as that's the case, I'll set off with classmate and Lin now. They were going to descend into the mortal world in 2 days. She had heard from Lin that was in Lin's hometown, so as a qualified beast pet, she naturally had to go and check it out. She really wanted to see just what kind of place could nurture an exceptional individual like Lin. By the way, our class has 3 spots for the mission to descend into the mortal world this year. The mission is to investigate the Dark Wing tribe and the passageway to the mortal world. The mission is quite dangerous, so only those who have reached the spirit nurturing stage can participate. Who wants to go? As the class representative, Xianyuan Chung already had the right to select the participants. Everyone gathered together once again. If Lin was a freak who defied common sense, then Su Xiaolan was the classic example of someone who overcame all odds one step at a time. She was progressing at a speed that all the students could see, surpassing everyone else one step at a time. And Lin snapped his fingers. Don't worry, I'm not short on money. The Immortal Spirit Tower trial was about to begin, and if he didn't progress to the half-step soul formation stage soon, he might not even be able to make it onto the university's student rankings board. And Lin once again saw Big Brother Chung, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. I've been thinking about making a breakthrough to the return to void stage recently, and I need a divine pill to assist me. And Lin didn't hide anything. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. Can I join? Woof. Dabai raised his paw with excitement. By the way, classmate Xianyuan Chung has already progressed to the soul formation stage and has returned to school, Su Xiaolan said. Once the time was up, and Lin, Dabai, Tina, and Xianyuan Chung set off on their journey to the mortal world again. Giant and Lin, I want to go as well. I haven't been to the mortal world yet. Tina landed on Lin's shoulder and tugged on his hair with an excited expression. All right, classmate Lin is going, so there's still 2 spots left. Who else wants to go? Xianyuan Chung asked with a smile. Tears streamed down Tang Shiman's face. He could only graduate after reaching the soul formation stage? Did that mean he didn't have to graduate? Big Brother Chung, you look very energetic. And Lin couldn't help but praise. Chapter 954. A faint smile appeared on his face. I'm sorry, I'm so proud to have such a good son. At the southern heavenly gate of the celestial court, and Ming Chuan extended his silver-gloved left hand and grabbed onto Yi Dong's sword. A crisp sound rang out. Right at this moment, thinking back, he had witnessed Tina mastering the Taichu language in just a few days with his own eyes. He was well aware of Tina's terrifying learning ability. Jian and Lin, Earth was created by Niuhua. Wouldn't she know what's wrong with Earth if she went to Earth and used her authority to investigate? Tina was also a god of creation, and she was perplexed. The duel continued. It's all right, it's a beautiful world. And Lin smiled. Jian and Lin, I've been working hard to learn Chinese for the past 2 days. Do you think my pronunciation is correct? Tina spoke in perfect Mandarin, and Lin heaved a forlorn sigh. That's the difficult part. Even though Niuhua created this small world, she returned all of its authority to the great Tao of heaven and earth, allowing it to develop freely without any interference. Not only that, but in order to prevent this world from being stimulated by immortal spirits of a higher level, she even refrained from visiting Earth in fear of triggering a change in the laws of the world. Tian Lingling had progressed to the spirit nurturing stage half a year ago, and it could be said that she was the most dazzling being among the younger generation. This sword technique of his was extremely fast and powerful, and the air around it stagnated momentarily amidst its violent momentum. Even cultivators of the spirit-nurturing initial stage would have to evade it. Yi Dong let loose a loud roar and used his long sword to block the attack, upon which a terrifying collision erupted. Yi Dong's sword finally struck in Ming Chuan's body, only to be repelled by a burst of explosive force, and he was forced back a few steps. Beep, beep, beep. Their mission was open to the public, and it was a 1-month mission. The objective was to investigate the passageway between the Dark Wing tribe and Earth in order to find the flaws of this world. The Divine Mirror world had already entered the Second Industrial Revolution, and it was an era where heat, electromagnetic energy, and the power of cultivation were combined. Even though it was still in its infancy and couldn't compare to Earth, it was foreseeable that the Divine Mirror world would be even more prosperous than Earth in the future. Xin Yuancheng was speechless. None of Enlin's pet beasts were normal. They were all monsters. 2 god generals were choosing the landing point for Enlin and the others to cross the space between the 2 worlds. Recently, the temperature on Earth had risen strangely, and the vitality had also become much denser. The most direct reaction to this change was the evolution of all kinds of living beings, as well as the rampage of vicious beasts. Therefore, they were not in a hurry. The North Mist Mountain was the center of the Huan nation's official cultivation forces, and Ming Chuan held his sword horizontally in front of him and chuckled. "Mr. Yidong, hurry up and surrender. Otherwise, I'm going to destroy your little magic tool." And Ming Chuan smiled lightly as the long sword in his hand descended without any hesitation. There were several hundred spectating cultivators, and there were even a few spirit-nurturing, stage-powerful beings present to judge the battle. This was quite a rare occasion. Rumble. Sure enough, all of the spectating cultivators let loose cries of surprise upon seeing this. Surrender? You gotta be kidding me. Yidong was extremely indignant. He was a supremely talented prodigy who had a good chance of becoming the champion. How could he lose to a Krypton cultivator? After that, Nuwa spent a total of 3 years investigating this matter. She even sent out a Dao integration stage super mighty figure, but they were still unable to find anything. And Lin patted Tina's little head with an envious expression. "Little Na, you're the best. You can even become a live streamer with that pronunciation." Xin Yuancheng was rooted to the spot with astonishment on his face. "I've learned Chinese for a few years, but I can't even beat a fairy who's only learned Chinese for 2 days." On the North Mist Mountain, this was the Blue Frost Sword, an intermediate-rank spirit tool. Not only was it extremely sharp, but it could also enhance the power of one's sword techniques. What was most infuriating was that Dabai kept calling himself a useless dog. After bidding farewell to Xin Yuancheng, and Lin rode on Dabai and flew toward the North Mist Mountain with Tina in tow. And Ming Chuan and Yi Dong were engaged in an intense battle for the championship of the new Talent Cup of the Huan Nation's North Mist Mountain Cultivation Competition. A sweet smile appeared on Tina's face as she rubbed her head against Lin's hand. This was a high-rank spirit tool, the Windstorm Glove, which could imprison an enemy's attacks using the power of wind. Earth was Nuwa's territory, and under her protection, there was no way for foreign beings to invade Earth. However, the Darkwing tribe had somehow managed to descend upon Earth and steal the evil-slaying sword, and even Nuwa was alerted by this. The championship battle between the two of them naturally attracted a lot of attention, and Lin nodded upon hearing this before walking through the spatial gate. There were many cultivators gathered around the Dao Plaza at the summit of the mountain to witness this thrilling battle, and Ming Chuan patted his chest and chuckled as he stood unscathed on the spot. The most difficult mission that Lin and the others had accepted was to investigate whether there were any hidden flaws on Earth. There was no upper limit to the difficulty of this mission. Even super mighty figures of the Dao integration stage were unable to complete it. At this moment, a frosty sword projection flew toward them. Tears welled up in Yi Dong's eyes as an expression of despair appeared on his face at the sight of his powerful technique being easily blocked by a glove. "This isn't fair. This isn't your strength." At the center of the Dao Plaza, sword intent surged and vital energy surged. And Lin nodded in gratitude. "Thank you, Big Brother Chung." Even Dabai was at the half-step soul formation stage, and Ming Chuan was at the 8th stage Dao body, while Yi Dong was at the 10th stage Dao body, but the two of them were evenly matched. An 8-stage Dao body was able to fight a 10-stage Dao body to a draw. This wasn't because Ming Chuan was a freak or because Yi Dong was trash. After all, everyone's aptitudes were top-notch, and they were both cultivating on the North Mist Mountain and using the same cultivation methods. Tina was finally able to accept this fact after hearing Lin's words. The new Talent Cup they were hosting represented the pinnacle of the younger generation of cultivators in the Hua Nation. As such, the Celestial Court had also mobilized their forces to assist the Nuwa sect in maintaining the stability of Earth. It's a lot more prosperous than the Divine Mirror world, Tina commented. She had already put herself in the shoes of the human race, and she would always be happy whenever she heard that something was beneficial to the development of the human race. He stumbled back in retreat and looked down at the magic tool in his hand to find that a series of cracks had already appeared on it. Within the massive spell formation, this place was a beautiful scenery. What's so great about having a good son? Eat this, Wrath of Winter. Yi Dong roared as he closed in on Ming Chuan. His sword projection was imbued with terrifying power. Wow, so this is Earth? Tina's green eyes glowed with excitement as she looked around at the skyscrapers and cars passing by. Big Brother Chung, cheer up. Aptitude really isn't fair, and Lin said in a merciless voice. Classmate and Lin, I'm going to set up the spatial fluctuation detector. You can go and meet your father first, Xin Yuan Chung said in a thoughtful manner. This was in Ming Chuan's high-rank protective spirit tool, the Golden Sun anti-battle armor. Not only did it possess insane defensive prowess, it could also reflect enemy attacks to a certain extent. Yi Dong, Tina pouted. Then are we working for Nuwa? F***CK. Can't you let me cultivate in peace? That's right, this is the capital city of the Huan Nation on Earth. My dad is also cultivating here, and Lin replied with a reminiscent expression. And Lin faltered momentarily before replying. Nuwa created this world and was willing to give up her power of creation, so she must have a lot of plans in mind. However, the one thing that hasn't changed is that everything she does is beneficial to the human race. So helping her is actually helping ourselves as well. The most important reason was, and Ming Chuan was 2F* King Rich. Heaven and earth spun around them as 2 humans, 1 dog, and 1 fairy appeared in the air above the capital city. Go, Unclein! A young girl with short chestnut-colored hair waved her little fists as she cheered. Silly child. Money is also a form of power. She was none other than Tian Lingling, who was as petite as a lowly, but possessed exceptional aptitude. Classmate and Lin, your teleportation destination has been adjusted. Your destination is the capital city of the Huan Nation. You can begin the teleportation now, a heavenly general announced. Chapter 9:55. And Ming Chuan's sword fell, and Yi Dong was completely unable to evade it. Splat, blood splattered through the air as a massive gash appeared on the man's body, and he fell to the ground with tears of indignation flowing from his eyes. I hereby announce that the champion of the 36th North Mist Mountain Cultivation Competition is Ming Chuan, the main judge announced in a loud voice. Cheers erupted from the crowd as the atmosphere was extremely uplifting. And Ming Chuan had a set of top-grade spirit tools that even spirit-nurturing stage cultivators would drool over. Just by standing there, the light emanating from the spirit tools was enough to blind everyone. This was the glory of Tycoon. Yi Dong looked down at his shabby equipment, and tears of grief flowed from his eyes. In this era where everyone relied on their father, and Ming Chuan had become the champion by relying on his son. In just a few short years of cultivation, he had relied on the spirit tools and precious pills sent to him by his son to make rapid progress in his cultivation base. He had gone from a noob to a mighty figure in the cultivation world, and he was the epitome of just how terrifying a tycoon could be, just as everyone was celebrating the birth of the champion. An inky black rift suddenly appeared on the Dao Plaza. What is that? Some of the cultivators shuddered involuntarily at the sight of the inky black rift. Galloway, everyone! This is the power of space. A return of Void Stage mighty figure has arrived. A knowledgeable spirit nurturing stage, Cultivator exclaimed. Return to void stage? Could it be a cultivation base above soul formation stage, mighty figure? My God, why would a mighty figure of that caliber appear here? Run. Several hundred cultivators were shocked beyond words, and some of them even began to run for their lives. On Earth, soul formation stage cultivators were already the most powerful beings, and return to void stage mighty figures only existed in legends. Occasionally, there would be return to void stage mighty figures dispatched by the celestial court, but only a handful of them would be able to witness this in person. A powerful aura began to descend, and a mighty being riding a giant white beast finally appeared in front of everyone. He looked majestic and had a terrifying aura. Little Lin? And Ming Chuan yelled with excitement upon seeing this figure. All of the fleeing cultivators faltered in their tracks, and all of the panicking cultivators stared blankly at the scene before them. Fellow Taoist and Lin, and Ming Chuan's master, Chuizhe, couldn't help but exclaim upon seeing the man in front of him. Dad, long time no see. And Lin jumped off to Bai and gave Ming Chuan a joyful hug. At this moment, all the cultivators came to a realization. The man before them was Ming Chuan's son, and Lin, the freak from the celestial court. Am I seeing things? And Lin actually used the power of space? Wasn't he only at the spirit nurturing stage the next time we saw him? It hasn't been that long since we parted, but why can't I understand his realm? Could it be that he's already at the return to void stage? Hee. Are you watching a sci-fi movie? It had only been 2 years since they last met, and she had progressed from the spirit nurturing stage to the return to void stage. Are you scared out of your wits? Look, there's a very beautiful little person on his shoulder. What kind of life is that? All of the cultivators gathered around to appraise Lin and the others with awe and curiosity in their eyes. Uncle Lin, you become even more bad *SS, as expected of Big Brother N's father. Woof. A sly smile appeared on Bai's face, and Ming Chuan laughed heartily, clearly quite pleased with himself. He then noticed the little person beside Lin, and he couldn't help but feel extremely envious. In terms of appearance, this little person could be considered to be flawless. Little Lin, this is... And Ming Chuan turned to Tina. Hello, Uncle Lin. My name is Tina, and I'm Giant Lin's beast pet. Before Lin even had a chance to say anything, Tina took the initiative to introduce herself with a sweet smile. And Lin nodded. Little Na is a mighty figure of the fairy tribe. She may look small, but she's quite powerful. She's a return to void stage mighty figure. Great. And Ming Chuan nodded with elation at the sight of such an adorable little fairy. Little Na, you have good taste. If you follow my son, you'll definitely reach the pinnacle of your life. All of the cultivators drew a sharp intake of breath upon seeing this. So it wasn't that Lin had broken through to the return to void stage. Instead, he had just taken in a return to void stage mighty figure as his beast pet. This was even more *King terrifying. If it was a competition of sons, then it was a competition of sons. Was there a need to compete with such a powerful son? Xiao Dong, who was recovering from his injuries nearby, finally conceded upon seeing this. When a son reached a certain level of badassery, he really could do whatever he wanted. Fake Taoist priest. Long time no see. A clear and melodious voice, like a silver bell, came from not far away. And Lin had only just turned around when he saw a young woman in a purple dress pouncing toward him like a tiger, and he crashed right into her. Ow! Fake Loli, you haven't grown any taller, but you've become so powerful. And Lin almost lost his balance as he patted Tian Lingling's back. Why are you so enthusiastic? Do you have some ulterior motives? The young woman gave him a warm hug before a sly smile appeared on her face. Fake Taoist priest, I've successfully broken through to the spirit nurturing stage, but I don't have a suitable spirit tool. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. Piss off. Tian Lingling faltered slightly before an aggrieved expression appeared on her face. You don't love me anymore. Tian Lingling, has your moral integrity been eaten by Bai? And Lin's expression darkened. He had given this fake Loli a spirit tool last time. and now she was asking for something even better. Did she really think his money fell from the sky? And Ming Chuan immediately stepped forward to mediate the situation. All right, we're all family here, so let's talk things out. Let's drink some tea while we talk. Family? And Lin's eyes widened. Family? Tian Lingling glared at Ming Chuan with embarrassment and annoyance. And Ming Chuan coughed lightly before changing the subject. Why hasn't the beautiful celestial maiden Xiaolan returned to Earth? And Lin smiled. She's helping me sell vegetables to earn money. And Ming Chuan was astonished. Why you're asking Su Xiaolan to do something like this? Will you ever find a girlfriend like this? Will she be considerate and heartwarming? You'll never be able to get Xiaolan's heart if you do this. And Lin chuckled. I don't know what you're talking about. Su Xiaolan and I are already Dao partners-to-be. Barring any mishaps, she'll be your daughter-in-law in the future. Boom! This sentence struck in Ming Chuan like a bolt of lightning, leaving him crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. And Ming Chuan, he had only just finished his sentence when he revealed such a shocking truth. What kind of face-slapping was this? Is Celestial Maiden Su Xiaolan blind? Did she really get together with someone like you? And Ming Chuan was incredulous. He felt like a perfect Celestial Maiden like Su Xiaolan would take at least 100 years to date. How did she get together in less than 2 years? Unbelievable. And Lin's expression darkened. Are you my father? How can you insult your own son like this? Come on, tell me how you managed to get Xiaolan. And Ming Chuan dragged Lin toward the tea pavilion with excitement etched on his face. Chapter 956. Within the tea pavilion, Lin and Ming Chuan began to recount their experiences over the past 2 years. Tian Lingling listened with a gossipy expression. She was very interested in the Tai Chu continent and dreamed of going there one day to cultivate. And Ming Chuan and Tian Lingling were both entranced by Lin's story. For hours later, the story came to an end, and Ming Chuan took a sip of the Flying Fox Immortal Tea that Lin had brought back with him and sighed with emotion. Cultivating on Earth is like looking at the sky from the bottom of a well. The Tai Chu continent is the truly magnificent world. Tian Lingling grabbed onto Lin's hand with excitement. Fake Taoist priest, I really want to go to the kingdom of the 9 states. Do you have any way to get me there? And Lin smiled. I might not have been able to guarantee anything in the past, but now I do have the confidence to get you two to the kingdom of the 9 states. In the past, he was just an insignificant cultivator with no money or power. Now, he was the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect and possessed a cultivation force that rivaled that of the 9 Imperials. So he had more than enough power to negotiate with the Celestial Court. Fake Taoist priest, you're the best. Tian Lingling whooped with excitement. She then hooked an arm around Lin's arm like a cute little girl next door. Sect leader, can I join your 4-9 Immortal sect? And Lin chuckled. Of course you can, but I'm not going to open the back door. My 4-9 Immortal sect is one of the most powerful sects in the kingdom of the 9 states, so I have to lead by example and follow the rules. If you want to join, you'll have to pass many trials first. Tian Lingling pouted, but didn't say anything as she nodded silently. Haha, little Lin, I'll join your sect as well. It looks very impressive. And Ming Chuan's expression was filled with pride and elation. And Lin nodded with elation. All right, Dad, come here, and not only will you be exempted from the trials, I'll also make you an elder. Tian Lingling's eyes widened, and her mouth gaped open as she stared at Lin in astonishment. Who was the one who said to set an example and not open the back door? How could he change so quickly? Little Lin, you've grown up. And Ming Chuan didn't reject Lin's good intentions. Instead, he gladly accepted the back door. That's right, it wasn't a shameful thing to fight for their sons. If you're so capable, then give birth to such an awesome son too. Reincarnation depended on luck, but having a son depended on ability. And Ming Chuan felt like he was very awesome to have given birth to Lin. Tian Lingling was completely speechless at the sight of her father and son, who were both smiling slyly and joyously. As expected of biological parents, their values were so similar. Lin rarely saw his father, so he brought out 2 immortal fruits from his storage ring and gave them to Ming Chuan. Grade 6 immortal fruit, mysterious ice nether fruit. It could greatly increase the user's ice elemental power. Moreover, there was a certain probability that the user would gain some insights into the true meaning of ice. Tian Lingling's eyes almost popped out of their sockets at the sight of those two immortal fruits. Immortal rank fruits were legendary treasures on Earth. Yet, Enlin had given two immortal fruits to Mingchuan with just a wave of his hand. She couldn't even imagine how lavish he was. Enlin then gave two spirit fruits to Tian Lingling, upon which she squealed with excitement like a 30-kilogram husky. Fake Taoist priest, I love you to death. After obtaining the spirit fruit, Tian Lingling was so elated that she pounced on Enlin like a loli. Enlin swatted her away expressionlessly. He wasn't a lolicon. Tian Lingling had helped Enlin's father a lot when he wasn't on Earth, so Enlin naturally wasn't going to mistreat her. Next, I'm going to investigate how the Dark Wing tribe was able to come to Earth. By the way, what do you guys think about global warming and the fact that vital energy is becoming more abundant? Enlin thought for a moment before deciding to ask the cultivators living on Earth. And Mingchuan asked, isn't global warming due to the greenhouse effect? Tian Lingling replied, isn't the increase in vital energy due to the revival of spiritual energy? Enlin, all right, he felt like he had asked for nothing. What the hell is the revival of spiritual energy? He mustered up his courage. Tian Lingling heaved a faint sigh. That's the name given by the mortals on Earth. As vital energy becomes more abundant, some people who are unable to cultivate will also be able to reach the threshold of cultivation. Hence, they began to proclaim that this world is entering a new era of cultivation, an era of spiritual energy revival. Enlin massaged his brows. These people sure have wild imaginations. What do they mean by the fact that vital energy has never been abundant before? Revival my A***S. Tina interjected. Giant Enlin, I have a theory. What is it? Enlin was curious. The warming of the world is a sign of an increase in energy. The fact that vital energy has become more abundant means that its spiritual aura has improved significantly. You said before that the most powerful cultivators in this world are cultivators at the soul formation pinnacle stage. The level of the indigenous living beings and the level of the world interfere with one another. Hence, I'm wondering if the level of this world will increase after a living being successfully breaks through to the return to void stage, Tina analyzed. And Lin's eyes lit up. So you're saying that all of this is a sign that Earth is going to level up? Tina smiled. That's a possibility. Wait a minute. Tian Lingling raised her little hand with a confused expression. What's this level up thing you're talking about? I don't understand a single thing you're talking about. Is there any proof? And Mingchuan also turned toward Enlin. Tina took the initiative to explain, that's because in my world, this is a sign of leveling up. Enlin nodded. Tina is the god of creation of the divine mirror world, so she's very familiar with this. God of creation? Tian Lingling was completely dumbstruck. Little Lin's beast pet is a god of creation? And Mingchuan was also astonished, and he stared at Enlin with incredulity on his face. What have you been through during these past few years? You even tamed a god of creation. That's way too terrifying. He didn't know what a god of creation was, but a being that had created a world had to be an extremely powerful being. An adorable and bashful expression appeared on Tina's face as she buried her face in her hands. It's all thanks to Giant Enlin that I was able to come across this opportunity. Before I grew up, my things were Giant Enlin's things, and he was looking after them for me. Tian Lingling and Mingchuan, the two of them stared at Enlin with unreadable expressions. What the hell did you instill in this adorable little fairy's mind? Enlin smiled as he stroked Tina's wavy golden hair. You're such a good girl, little Na. Tina's speculation was actually quite plausible. If this really was the result of the leveling up of the world, then he didn't know what would happen before the leveling up of the world. He thought about it for a moment before pulling out his phone and logging onto the chat app. There was strength in numbers, and he still had a weapon that he could use now. All cultivators of the world unite to protect Earth group chat. Fake Taoist priest Littleton, seniors, you're back. Chapter 9:57. And Lin's message was sent. Awkwardly, no one replied. Perhaps all the cultivators in the group were busy, so the chat group was very quiet. And Lin thought for a moment and was just about to mention the group leader when someone popped up. Domineering Saber Lord. Hee hee. You look unfamiliar, kid. Are you new? Fake Taoist priest Littleton boss. Beginner, please protect me. Pitiful. And Lin thought for a moment and decided to act cute. Taoist booming thunder. Newcomer, you've been silent for so long. Hurry up and post some photos. I want you to cross-dress for the photos. Hee hee hee. And Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. Why was this group becoming more and more abnormal? Domineering Saber Lord. Booming thunder, you idiot. Don't scare our little newbie. Don't be afraid. I'll protect you in this group. Just tell me if you need anything. Fake Taoist priest Littleton. Thank you, Senior Domineering Saber. Domineering Saber Lord was very satisfied. He had gained another underling. As an experienced senior, the more underlings he had, the greater the sense of accomplishment he felt. Right at this moment, a true boss suddenly popped up in the group. The Savior. Domineering Saber Lord was excited to see the Savior. Wow, Savior, you're online now? The Savior sent a dumbstruck dog picture. Holy F***CK. Am I seeing things? Who am I seeing? Senior Poison Lord is online. Taoist Booming Thunder was dumbstruck. Senior Poison Lord? Am I seeing things? Where is Senior Poison Lord? Fake Taoist Priest Littleton. It's Sword Immortal and Lin. The Savior. Senior Sword Immortal and Lin, you're back. Long time no see. Tian Lingling also joined the group. Due to her exceptional aptitude, she had a limitless future ahead of her, and she had already become an administrator. Tian Lingling tagged everyone. Come, let's welcome Fake Taoist Priest back. Fake Taoist Priest Littleton, don't make it so grand. Taoist Woodnox, Holy F***CK. Crack Shot Clairvoyant. Welcome back, Sword Immortal and Lin. Dreamy Voice Fairy. Welcome back, Sword Immortal and Lin. Atomic Bomb Fairy. Welcome back, Sword Immortal and Lin. Clear River Sword Immortal. Welcome back, Sword Immortal and Lin. One by one, the elusive big shots in the group appeared in a unified formation. That terrifying formation scared the Tyrant Saber, Venerable, and Roaring Thunder, Taoist Master Silly. Furthermore, the person they were welcoming, Sword Immortal and Lin, was actually Fake Taoist Priest Littleton. Fake Taoist Priest Littleton, thank you for your warm welcome, seniors. Hiss! Tyrant Saber Venerable and Taoist Booming Thunder sucked in a breath of cold air at the same time. It really was Fake Taoist Priest Littleton, F***CK. Tyrant Saber Venerable and Taoist Booming Thunder felt their scalps go numb. They had actually put on airs in front of a super big shot. She even treated him like a newbie and requested him to wear female clothes. Pills. Domineering Supremacy directly said via voice transmission, sob sob sob. I worship Sword Immortal and Lin. Please be magnanimous and forgive me for my rudeness just now. Domineering Supremacy took the initiative to apologize as a newbie. It could be said that his will to live was very strong. Only then did the other cultivators in the group see the chat history. They didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the sight of Lin pretending to be a newbie. They couldn't help but turn their gazes toward Taoist Booming Thunder. However, Taoist Booming Thunder didn't say anything, nor did he express anything. This was a little intriguing. Was Taoist Booming Thunder this bad? *SS? He couldn't even be bothered to respond. Some of them thought that Taoist Booming Thunder was too scared to come to his senses. Right at this moment, a message popped up. An image appeared before everyone's eyes. A muscular man in a blue maid's outfit appeared before everyone. He lowered his head slightly in a shy and apologetic expression. Taoist Booming Thunder, Sword Immortal and Lin, I offer you a photo of myself in female clothes. I beg for your forgiveness. And Lin, all the group instantly fell silent before exploding with activity. Tian Lingling, wow, This is so exciting. Domineering saber lord. Terrifying. Booming thunder is still so shameless. Taoist wooden ox. Erg. Dreamy voice fairy. Erg. Atomic bomb fairy. Erg. The savior. Erg. Golden jade. His will to live can be said to have broken through the heavens. Enlightened lazarite. What did I do wrong? Why do I have to see this? It hurts my eyes. Fake Taoist priest little in, I originally didn't plan to hold it against you, but your message made me change my mind. Domineering saber lord immediately tried to salvage the situation. No, Master and Lin, if you don't like it, I'll immediately withdraw the message. In the next second, Domineering saber lord withdrew the message. The group was still in a heated discussion. Some of them even talked about Lin's cross-dressing photo, which was much more pleasing to the eye than Domineering saber lord's cross-dressing photo. And Lin immediately changed the topic. Seniors, sorry to interrupt, but I actually came to the group to ask you something. It had to be said that his words already had a lot of power in the group. Hearing this, the group members all expressed that they could ask whatever they wanted to. And Lin breathed a sigh of relief and began to ask about serious matters. Fake Taoist priest Littlin, seniors, what do you think about Earth's temperature rising and vital energy becoming denser? Golden Jade. Mr. and Lin's question has always been an unsolved mystery, right? The savior, I don't know what caused this phenomenon, but I know that there are abnormal fluctuations at a certain node in Luoyang. Dreamy voice fairy. Now that you mention it, I've also discovered violent fluctuations in vital energy at Immortal Abode Island. Red Fox, Celestial Maiden. Our sex Green Hill Mystic Realm is also experiencing abnormal fluctuations. Many messages popped up in the group. Many cultivators reported the locations where they had encountered abnormal vital energy fluctuations. And Lin took out a gigantic world map. Fake Taoist priest Littlin, if it's convenient for you, please send me the locations where you know of abnormal vital energy fluctuations. Just like that, he received many locations where abnormal vital energy fluctuations were occurring. Tian Lingling cooperatively marked out the locations on the map with a red pen. Right at this moment, a man as handsome as an immortal broke through the white clouds and landed beside Lin. Tian Lingling was dazed for a moment upon seeing this man. Even though she wasn't obsessed with good looks, she was still momentarily dazed. So handsome. This man had become even more handsome after not seeing him for 2 years. She really wanted to pounce on him. Tian Lingling forcibly repressed that urge and glanced at Lin. She finally managed to force herself to calm down by borrowing Lin's good looks. Big Brother Chung, you're finally back. Lin exclaimed joyfully upon seeing the man. Xian Yuan Chung smiled warmly. It didn't take long to set up a dozen or so spatial fluctuation detectors. What are you doing? Lin pointed at the red dots on the world map. I'm recording the locations of abnormal vital energy fluctuations. Xian Yuan Chung looked toward the world map. He was a little confused at first. After looking for a while, his expression suddenly became serious. There's something wrong with these nodes. Chapter 958. Is there a problem? Lin turned to Xian Yuan Chung with a confused expression. He had been studying the map for a while, but he was still completely baffled. Xian Yuan Chung didn't say anything. Instead, he pointed a finger toward the map and slowly connected the red dots with a streak of white light, creating a series of complex vein patterns. Lin stared at the scene before him in astonishment. This is a spell formation? Xian Yuan Chung nodded. The distribution of these red dots doesn't seem to have any pattern, but it actually contains the principles of yin and yang. It's like a naturally formed spell formation. The white lines connected to form an extremely complex spell formation. The spell formation doesn't seem to be complete, and Lin wasn't familiar with spell formations, but through his divine inspection technique, he was able to discover many major flaws in the spell formation. If he were to transfer power within the spell formation would definitely collapse. Xian Yuan Chung nodded. Perhaps some of the nodes of the spell formation haven't appeared yet, or perhaps they haven't been discovered yet. It's too difficult for me to find the eye of the spell formation under these circumstances here. Before Xin Yuan Cheng even had a chance to finish his sentence, and Lin pointed toward a certain area with a white light flashing in his eyes. That area was located in the Mongolian Empire, above Inner Mongolia. Xin Yuan Cheng, classmate in Lin, how dare you say you don't know anything about spell formations? Xin Yuan Cheng retorted angrily, and Lin's chest tightened. He was only using his divine inspection technique to find the core area. He really didn't know anything about spell formations. The two of them didn't waste any more words and immediately headed toward the Mongolian Empire. Tina tore open a spatial rift and took Dabai and Lin and Xin Yuan Cheng with her. As for Ming Chuan and Tian Lingling, and Lin decided not to bring them along due to the unknown dangers. On a stretch of undulating grassland, crack, an inky black spatial rift began to appear. And Lin, Xin Yuan Cheng, Tina, and Dabai appeared in the air above the grassland. Why is the Yuan Qi in this place thinner than in other places? Logically speaking, shouldn't the Yuan Qi at the eye of the formation be denser? Woof. Duh. Bai looked around with a quizzical expression. Xin Yuan Cheng was also puzzled, and Lin took a deep breath, and his powerful divine sense expanded crazily. In an instant, it covered a radius of over 100 miles, and he sensed the essence Qi in a wide range. Looks like we didn't come to the wrong place. The reason why the Yuan Qi has become thin is because the Yuan Qi has gone somewhere else. And Lin's eyes lit up as he looked in a certain direction. Somewhere on a green grassland, herds of cows and sheep were active here. Each of them was at least 10 meters tall, and they moved slowly like giant beasts. A woman with an exquisite figure, dressed in a white dress, was lying on the back of a white goat. Her body was slightly tilted, and her gaze was distant as she gazed at the white clouds on the horizon. Boom, boom, boom. Not far away, there was a violent roar. A man in a purple robe was practicing his fists. Even though he was trying his best to suppress his power, each and every one of his punches was able to create a violent boom between heaven and earth. On another grassland, there was a woman with a cold and dignified appearance, meditating with her eyes closed. She suddenly opened her green eyes and looked toward a certain spot in the sky. Some insects are trying to break through our formation? The man stopped his practice and laughed heartily. Which blind cultivator is this? What an arrogant ****. I'm sure he'll be killed by our formation in less than a minute. Boom. His voice had only just fallen when the formation completely collapsed. The man in purple, whoosh. At this moment, a green sword projection instantly pierced through the sky toward the spot where the formation had been broken. It was as fast as a bolt of lightning. The meditating woman had unleashed her full power right from the get-go. Anyone who could break through her formation had to be extremely powerful, and it was most likely an enemy. Seeing as that was the case, there was no way she was going to hold back. She was going to unleash her full power to seize the initiative. Boom! As if it had collided with something, the mighty sword projection was forcibly stopped in its tracks. Then it exploded into a ball of green energy. The woman's pupils contracted, and her expression became extremely grave. Spatial power? A return to void stage mighty figure has come? A white figure riding a dog emerged from the explosion of energy and rushed over in a hurry. It's you. And Lin. The woman who had unleashed the attack couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Her beautiful eyes were filled with incredulity. The white-robed woman lying on the goat's back was also extremely indifferent to the destruction of the formation. It was as if it wasn't a big deal. However, when she saw the familiar figure, she stood up excitedly and waved vigorously. Senior and Lin, you're finally back. And Lin also waved with a smile when he saw the familiar figures. White Spirit Snake, Battle Goddess by Qiong, Battle God Xiang, long time no see. These people were the friends he had made in the Zhanqi continent. Battle Goddess by Qiong pursed her lips proudly and didn't say anything else. Battle God Ziyang had yet to come to his senses. White Spirit Snake became the most enthusiastic person. She trotted through the air toward Lin and quickly arrived before him. Her cheeks were flushed, and her eyes were especially energetic. How did you know about this place? Are you here to look for me? Air. Lin was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect White Spirit Snake to come up with such a scenario. He immediately replied, truthfully, "No, I came here to investigate the cause of the changes on Earth." Oh! White Spirit Snake kicked the air with the tip of her foot. She was slightly disappointed. "You've grown even more beautiful after 2 years, White Spirit Snake." Lin praised sincerely. "Is that so?" A smile finally appeared on White Spirit Snake's face. When they first met, White Spirit Snake only had the appearance of a young girl. During this period of time, she had probably developed quite well and had already transformed into a little celestial maiden. She wore a pristine white dress that tightly hugged her lithe and beautiful figure. Her delicate and fair cheeks were as fair as jade under the sunlight. Her neck was fair and slender, and her voluptuous breasts rose and fell intermittently. As a whole, she was so beautiful that she didn't seem ordinary. For some reason, Lin couldn't help but think of Tian Lingling as he gazed at White Spirit Snake. At that time, both of them were petite and adorable Lolas. Now, one of them had already become a little celestial maiden, while the other was still a little celestial maiden. This was the cruelty of reality. White Spirit Snake had developed far too well, and Lin couldn't help but turn his gaze toward the gigantic cows on the ground. Could it be that she had developed so well because she drank the milk of those gigantic cows? He wanted to give it a try, but he was a little embarrassed to ask. Speaking of which, milk was drinkable and very nutritious. However, Lin had always been very curious. What did the first person to discover that milk was drinkable do to the cows? Oh, right, White Spirit Snake, what are you guys doing here? If I'm not mistaken, this should be the core of some spell formation, right? Lin asked. A hesitant expression appeared on White Spirit Snake's face, and she averted her gaze. "Master White, you can't tell him about this," Battle Goddess by Cheong interjected. "That's right. This is an internal matter of our Snake Spirit clan. You can't tell an outsider." Battle God Ziyong also cautioned, and Lin rolled his eyes at Battle God Ziyong. How could she say something like, "our Snake Spirit clan"? Had a mighty battle god been reduced to such a state? White Spirit Snake, do you treat me as an outsider? And Lin looked at the female in the white dress before him with an aggrieved expression. Our master, White isn't a child anymore. How could she be so easily bewitched by you? Battle God Ziyong sneered as he looked at Lin. It's not like that, Senior Lin. White Spirit Snake immediately denied. She took a deep breath and stared at Lin. I'll tell you everything I know. Battle Goddess by Cheong, Battle God Ziyong. Chapter 959. Battle Goddess by Cheong and Battle God Ziyong weren't expecting White Spirit Snake's reaction. And Lin also didn't expect White Spirit Snake to speak so decisively. Isn't this woman treating me a little too well? Even if she admires me, she shouldn't admire me to this extent, right? He didn't think too much about it. He didn't want to miss out on a chance to obtain information. White Spirit Snake is the best. Now, tell me, why are you guys here and what do you know? And Lin asked with a warm smile. Everyone gathered on the grass. Battle Goddess by Cheong glared at Lin, but she didn't say anything. As for Battle God Ziyong, he was even more obedient, and he stood respectfully to the side. White Spirit Snake had the absolute right to speak now. Where should I start? White Spirit Snake pondered for a moment. That's fine. Start from the beginning. I have plenty of time, so the more detailed the better. Lin had an expectant expression. Battle Goddess by Cheong, White Spirit Snake nodded. Then, let's start with the Darkwing Tribe invasion 3 years ago. That was the first time the Darkwing Tribe managed to open up a passageway between the Tai Chu continent and Earth. They even sent a mighty figure at the Return to Void pinnacle stage like the Dark Knight Monarch to invade Earth in an attempt to steal the evil slaying sword. Although they were defeated by Senior and Lin and destroyed the passageway between the two worlds can still be rebuilt no matter how many times it is destroyed. However, no matter how many times the passageway between the two worlds is destroyed, it can always be rebuilt, and Earth will still be in danger of being invaded again. The key is what method the Darkwing Tribe used to construct the passageway, and what kind of connection did they make between the Tai Chu continent and Earth. Currently, The only passageway between Earth and the Tai Chu continent is the Celestial Court's southern heavenly gate. They have to find out what flaw the Darkwing tribe exploited when they constructed the passageway between the two worlds. Then they can fix that flaw. And Lin nodded in agreement. If other living beings were able to sneak into the divine mirror world without Tina's permission, she would be extremely unsettled and even driven mad. After that, Her Majesty Nuwa sent the Snake Spirit Clan, which is the Snake Spirit Clan of your Tai Chu continent, into Earth to investigate, but to no avail. In the past month, there has been a change on Earth. The temperature has risen, and the density of vital energy has increased tremendously. The goddess speculates that the level of the world is about to change. The real upheaval will happen after a native soul formation cultivator successfully transcends the tribulation. Now, Big Sister Black has deduced the location of the formation I of this world's natural derivation formation based on the nodes of the world's Yuan Qi. Where we are now is the secondary formation I of the formation. White Spirit Snake gave an explanation. Wait, this is the secondary array I? And Lin was astonished. Formation cores are split into primary and secondary. The secondary array I refers to the array I on the surface. When a large array is truly outlined, the true array I is underground. White Spirit Snake pointed toward the ground with a smile. Big Sister Black is underground. She's guarding the true spell formation core. The Big Sister Black you're talking about is Black Spirit Snake, right? Lin was a little nervous. Yeah, she's Big Sister Black Spirit Snake. Only now do I know that I'm a subordinate of Her Majesty Nuwa. 10,000 years ago, I suffered some kind of fatal injury and was nurtured by the 5 elements Divine Lotus for 10,000 years before being reincarnated. White Spirit Snake replied with a dainty smile without a hint of hesitation. Battle Goddess by Chion massaged her brows. Why does Master White tell Lin everything? It really is her. And Lin was a little flustered upon hearing this. He had guessed White Spirit Snake's identity a long time ago. Thus, he wasn't too shocked after learning that White Spirit Snake was a mighty figure who had reincarnated. Black Spirit Snake's presence here was what scared him the most. That be Astra's Starred had a vendetta against him. What if she beat him up the moment they met? Then why are you guarding the eye of the formation? If any major changes were to take place in this strange formation, the formation I would usually be the core of the changes. The Nuwa sect didn't inform the Celestial Court of this beforehand. Was there some kind of unspeakable secret here? This matter is a secret of our tribe. A hint of hesitation appeared on White Spirit Snake's beautiful face. It was clear that she was hesitating again. Look at you. Are you treating me like an outsider again? And Lin was a little disappointed, and his brows furrowed in indignation. When Battle Goddess by Chion saw the hesitation in White Spirit Snake's eyes, she immediately unsheathed her sword. She glared at Lin as if she was looking at a pig that was trying to steal vegetables. Are you not an outsider? Battle God Ziyang was afraid of White Spirit Snake, and he was even more afraid that Black Spirit Snake would punish him later on. Thus, he couldn't help but chime in agreement. Don't be like this. Senior Lin is one of us. White Spirit Snake hurriedly expressed her stance. She stared at Lin and took a deep breath. The War Realm's upgrade this time requires the absorption of energy from chaos. We use the chaotic spatial pestle to determine the energy absorption passageway for the upgrade. It's located at the core of the spell formation. It's not only the core, but it's also the biggest flaw. And Lin's expression darkened. You're saying that the Darkwing tribe used that passageway to find the location of the War Realm? White Spirit Snake nodded. That's most likely the case. Hence, Big Sister Black is guarding the passageway to observe the situation. Then why are you guarding the secondary core? And Lin asked curiously. White Spirit Snake pursed her lips. Because there's a very high possibility that the secondary core leads to the Snake Spirit Clan's territory in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Huh? And Lin was dumbstruck. Tina pondered for a moment before speculating. Is it because this world was constructed using the realm essence crystals and fragments of the realm core from the ancient Tai Chu realm? White Spirit Snake looked at the little fairy before her in surprise. Huh, you know about this as well? Some seniors have mentioned this to me before. A faint blush appeared on Tina's face. I'm not going to tell you that I've also created a world. Even though her divine mirror world could sense the ancient Tai Chu realm when it upgraded, it had never absorbed energy from the outside world. As such, she didn't know where the energy came from, so the line between existence and non-existence wasn't very clear. Perhaps existence was non-existence, and non-existence was existence? Only in this way could a miracle be created from nothing. Then I'll stay behind to accompany you guys. Everyone has a responsibility for the rise and fall of the world. This concerns the safety of my hometown, so I have a reason to contribute in order to maintain world peace, and Lin said with a righteous expression. Battle Goddess Bai Qiong and Battle God Ziyang were both speechless, and Lin was probably the only person who would dare to interfere in the Snake Spirit Clan's affairs. Furthermore, he was using such a righteous reason that they couldn't refute him. White Spirit Snake nodded with a joyful smile. Senior and Lin is the best. Chapter 960. After that, and Lin, Xinyuan Cheng, Dabai, and Tina remained on this grassland. As for the main formation core that Black Spirit Snake was guarding, and Lin didn't have the guts to go there and get beaten up. What they had to do now was to wait for the changes to take place in this world. Classmate and Lin, if there really is a passageway that connects to the ancient Tai Chu realm, should we go in? Xinyuan Cheng had never been to the ancient Tai Chu realm before, so he was very curious about that place. The Snake Spirit Clan is located in the Void Star section of the ancient Tai Chu realm. It's an extremely dangerous place, so it's best if we don't go there. Most importantly, there's no way for us to go back after we go in. If the passageway suddenly closes, we'll be in deep sh*t. And Lin didn't want to be trapped in the ancient Tai Chu realm. He chose to stay here as he didn't want any of the strange creatures in the ancient Tai Chu realm to wreak havoc on Earth. As for repairing the flaws in this world, White Spirit Snake and Black Spirit Snake were already prepared, so he didn't have to worry about that. And Lin and Xinyuan Cheng were taking a stroll when they caught sight of a young woman in a white dress lying lazily on the back of a goat, looking up at the blue sky and white clouds in the distance. Her skin was as white as snow. Her hair danced in the wind, and her features were exquisite and flawless. All of this blended harmoniously with the beautiful grassland to create a beautiful scenery. White Spirit Snake sure is growing fast. And Lin sighed with emotion. Xinyuan Cheng nodded. Indeed, in the past, she was still a little girl who didn't know anything, but now, she can take charge of everything. And Lin murmured to himself, her figure sure is growing fast. Her slender waist, her voluptuous breasts, her graceful figure, and the pure and lively expression in her eyes. She's perfect. Xinyuan Cheng, what the F***CK? Can't we just have a normal conversation? Is she growing fast, referring to that aspect of her body? Dabai also sighed with emotion. I was her idol back then, but her cultivation base is way behind me now, woof. It's not your fault. He has always been awesome. He was just pretending to be a newbie in the past. And Lin comforted him. Dabai, and Lin's spiritual sense was powerful, and he quickly ascertained the realms of the three people. Battle God Ziyang abandoned the battle chi system and started cultivating from scratch. Because he had a solid foundation, he had already reached the soul formation initial stage. As for Battle Goddess Bai Qiong, she had already reached the soul formation pinnacle stage as she was the pioneer of transforming the battle chi system into the vital energy system. She had already laid down her foundation long ago, so she had already reached the soul formation pinnacle stage. The little Tao body stage rookie White Spirit Snake had already reached the return to void intermediate stage, and she had become the leader of the trio. Thankfully, this process was the process of her power recovering and not the result of a breakthrough. Otherwise, and Lin, a freak who was a fake immortal cultivator, would be under a lot of pressure. The sun gradually sank into the grassland, and the sky seemed to be on fire. On the endless grassland, faint yellow and bright red colors invaded the sky, like a magnificent oil painting. Apart from the cries of cows and sheep, there was only silence. Come, come, come. It's time to eat. I'll treat you guys to beef today. And Lin yelled. Although he was far away from home, he couldn't slack off on his culinary skills. Battle God Ziyong couldn't help but fly into a rage. Mr. Lin, how can you be so shameless? You slaughtered our cow to make beef, and you still have the nerve to say that you're treating us? And Lin chuckled. I'm the #1 chef god of the celestial court, and a single dish costs several 100,000 spirit stones. How much is your cow worth? It's your honor to use your cow as a dish. You, Battle God Ziyang's blood boiled with rage. Boring. Battle Goddess by Cheong sniffed the fragrance of the beef and tilted her head arrogantly in another direction. She completely ignored Lin's dish. Meanwhile, White Spirit Snake rushed toward Lin excitedly and started cheering like a little girl. I'm so happy. I actually got a chance to eat Senior and Lin's food. Master White, our cultivation base, we don't need to eat it all. Bai Cheong furrowed her brows slightly and couldn't help but remind her. But this is a dish cooked by Senior and Lin. It's a rare opportunity. There was a smile on White Spirit Snake's face. She picked up a piece of beef from the frying pan with her chopsticks and shoved it into her mouth. Delicious. And Lin smiled triumphantly. Little Bai, you have good taste. Sigh, I really don't know what you did to bewitch Master White. Battle Goddess by Cheong massaged her brows in distress and sighed with emotion. And Lin humphed coldly in his mind. If he had brought his frying pan with him, then he would have unleashed his trump card. He was sure that all of these people would eat until they wished they were dead. They would moan in ecstasy. As for why Battle Goddess by Cheong asked him why White Spirit Snake was so attached to him, he didn't know either. Not only were these cows that grew on the eye of the spell formation stronger, but their meat was also more succulent and succulent. Coupled with Lin's extraordinary cooking skills, which were comparable to those of the aunties in the cafeteria of the United of Cultivation, everyone enjoyed their meal to their heart's content. Even Battle God Ziyong couldn't help but join in on the feast. After everyone had a satisfying meal, they continued to wait dumbly in the same spot. Some of them were meditating, while others were staring blankly at the stars in the night sky. And Lin lay on top of Debai's soft and warm body. It was extremely comfortable. He pulled out his magically modified phone and logged onto the chat app to see if there was anything interesting in the Cultivator group chat. To his surprise, the group chat was especially lively tonight. There were 999+ messages every minute. What happened? And Lin's interest was piqued. Atomic Bomb Fairy. Sigh. I wonder if Senior Yumu can withstand it. This kind of unprecedented breakthrough is far too terrifying. Yumu? Is he the sect leader of the Shangqing Immortal Sect? I think he's a powerful being of the soul formation stage. And Lin was confused. Why were these people suddenly mentioning him? Taoist Wudnox. Sigh. That's hard to say. Didn't the Wudong sect leader, Taoist priest Su Yun, perish during the heavenly tribulation? The golden void lightning isn't that easy to withstand, especially since this is the first return to void stage tribulation since the creation of this world. Although Senior Yumu isn't weak, it's still very difficult. Calm Celestial Maiden. I believe in Senior Yumu, the Savior. Me too. Enlightened Divine Talisman. My master will definitely succeed in transcending the tribulation. Gasp. And Lin's eyes widened, and he sucked in a sharp breath of air. So there's a cultivator about to transcend the tribulation. And it's a return to void stage tribulation at that. That's right, this makes sense now. An increase in the level of life can increase the level of the world. The success of the cultivators in this world is the key to the upgrade of the world. For some reason, and Lin's heart stirred. At this moment, a faint fragrance wafted over. And Lin turned around and was greeted by the sight of Battle Goddess by Cheong's aloof and dignified expression. You want to go? Battle Goddess by Cheong glanced at her phone screen. If I can help them, why wouldn't I? And Lin replied with a smile. Battle Goddess by Cheong shook her head. If the first person to successfully transcend the tribulation has external assistance, have you thought about the consequences? Sometimes, following the natural order of things is the only way to allow the world to develop normally. And Lin fell silent. He wasn't like those people in stories who would do something even if they didn't want to. He was going to defy the natural order of things. After thinking for a moment, he sighed lightly and gave up on the idea. Wait, and Lin suddenly realized that something was amiss, and he looked toward the female beside him with a puzzled expression. How do you know what I want to do? Ahem. Battle Goddess by Cheon coughed lightly. Then, a beautiful smile appeared on her face. Your reputation as the Lord of Transcendence has already spread throughout the entire continent. How could I not know? Lin, there doesn't seem to be a problem with this explanation. He didn't think too much about it, and turned his gaze toward the Cultivator group chat. At this moment, there were 999 plus messages in the group chat. Not only that, but there was also a F*King live broadcast on one of the chat windows. A chubby cultivator wearing a Taoist robe stood atop a tall mountain peak. He was holding a selfie stick as he shouted at the screen. Come, my dear friends. Today is a beautiful day with a bright moon and few stars. It's a clear and windless day. My master is about to transcend his tribulation, and the Uncle Masters have already arrived. Look over there. Isn't he handsome? I'm going to broadcast the entire process from now on. Fellow cultivators who are happy, double-click 666. You can tip out talismans or other gifts in the upper left corner. Thank you, dreamy voice celestial maiden, for the Tao talisman. Thank you, Tian Lingling, for the spirit stone. Thank you so much. This gift is too valuable. Thank you, Tycoon. Thank you, Tycoon. The chubby cultivator was extremely excited as he continuously expressed his gratitude. The cultivators in the group chat all cheered 666. Lin, did I enter the wrong group? Chapter 961. What's with the live streaming trend in the Cultivator group chat? No, this is a F*King live stream. Lin was astonished. You can even do this? Atomic Bomb Fairy. Enlightened Divine Talisman. How's Taoist Yumu doing? The fatty in the video grinned. My master must be in great condition. Crack shot clairvoyant. When will Senior Yumu start his tribulation? About an hour or so, the fatty in the video replied. The cultivators in the group chatted nonstop with Enlightened Divine Talisman. And Lin scrolled to the side of the video and saw that there was a reward button. The highest reward was Spirit Stones. Currently, only Tian Lingling had rewarded him with a Spirit Stone. Just one Spirit Stone was enough to make the fatty grin from ear to ear. And Lin thought for a moment and chose 100 Spirit Stones from the reward button. Ding dong. System notification. Fake Taoist Priest Little and has rewarded him with 100 Spirit Stones. An Azure Dragon suddenly appeared on the screen, and Spirit Stones rained down. It had the effect of tagging everyone. One by one, cultivators started popping up, and they were all astonished by the scene in front of them. Golden Jade. Holy F*CK. Sword Immortal and Lin is here. The Savior. All hail, Tycoon and Lin. Dreamy Voice Fairy. Oh my God, so much money. Domineering Lord, I kneel to the Mighty One. Calm Celestial Maiden. What a spendthrift. Tian Lingling. Haha, a real super tycoon has appeared. I'm just a poor little Beastris starred, so I won't pretend to be a Mighty One. Welcome to the main character. Taoist Wooden Ox, casually giving out 100 Spirit Stones. Only Tycoon and Lin can be this extravagant. I'm in awe. Countless messages popped up in the group chat. Enlightened Divine Talisman was dumbfounded for a few seconds. He rubbed his eyes and screamed, Thank you, Super Tycoon and Lin, for your 100 Spirit Stones reward. This is a huge surprise. I love you. Senior, I've heard so much about you. Immortal Divine Talisman laughed like a 200-pound child. His eyes were squinted into slits, and his plain Taoist robe was jiggling because of his fat. Apparently, he was extremely excited. A smile appeared on Lin's face as he began his true objective. Fake Taoist Priest Littlin. Can I take a closer look at Taoist Priest Yumu? Tao Master Divine Talisman was stunned for a moment, and then he nodded heavily. Of course, my master hasn't gone through the tribulation yet. Feel free to look around. How could he refuse the request of a tycoon? Even if she wanted his body, he could reluctantly accept it, not to mention that this request was so simple. Thus, enlightened divine talisman scurried toward Yumu. As the sect leader of the Shang-Qing immortal sect, Yumu's strength was unfathomable, and his prestige was extremely high. No cultivator dared to approach him before his heavenly tribulation, and they could only watch from afar. Of course, his proud disciple, Taoist divine talisman, was an exception. Master, the members of the Protect Earth group want to see you up close. Enlightened divine talisman chuckled as he ran toward Yumu. Yumu glared at enlightened divine talisman. F***CK off. Don't you know what kind of occasion this is? But Big Boss and Lin tipped us 100 spirit stones. Enlightened divine talisman's round body shrank back as he spoke with an aggrieved expression. Boom! Yumu felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his body trembled violently. His eyes lit up, and he roared with rage. Quick! Point the camera at me. Enlightened divine talisman, all the cultivators in the group. Just like that, Yumu's rugged face appeared on the screen, and he even put up a peace sign in an extremely polite manner. Hi, fellow cultivators in the group. Thank you for your concern, and I'm also very grateful to fellow cultivator and Lin for tipping me 100 spirit stones. I won't say anything else, but I believe that I will definitely succeed in my tribulation transcendence this time. Everyone in the group was spamming 666 and shouting their blessings. And Lin couldn't help but grimace at the sight of this strange, yet normal scene. Tian Lingling, Senior Yumu, you will definitely succeed. I, Tian Lingling, have said this, and D Lingling also agrees with me. My words will definitely come true. Spirit Child Rock, that's right. Heaven and earth are undergoing great changes, and a new era is upon us. Senior Yumu will definitely become the first among us to successfully progress from the soul formation stage to the return to void stage. Crackshot Clairvoyant, I've performed a divination for you, Senior Yumu. You have no problems at all, and you'll be blessed with great fortune. And Lin, fake Taoist priest Little Lin, I've also performed a divination. Senior Yumu will definitely be able to overcome all the obstacles in his tribulation transcendence and become the #1 cultivator on Earth. Divination and whatnot were just some random words. Even if he was struck to death by lightning, he wouldn't be able to get revenge. Yumu looked at the messages of well wishes that popped up one after another, and a wide smile appeared on his face. Thank you for your support and encouragement, fellow cultivators. I'm going to continue my preparations now. Don't forget to tip me and double-click 666 when you see my heroic figure when I transcend the tribulation. And Lin, he's already transcending a terrifying tribulation, and he still hasn't forgotten to tip me? Is he really that excited? A group of cultivators chimed in the chat group, and the atmosphere was extremely lively. Battle Goddess by Cheong also couldn't help but glance at Lin's phone. She knew how to use her phone, but she didn't want to use human technology. Thus, she didn't join any random chat groups. However, she was starting to get a little impatient now. Soon, an hour passed by. Dark clouds gathered above the tall mountain, and golden lightning flashed. Everyone look! My master is about to transcend his tribulation. Everyone, you can like or tip me. Your thoughts will become motivation for my master's tribulation transcendence. Enlightened divine talisman yelled excitedly. He stood a kilometer away, and he excitedly used his phone to take pictures of the surrounding tribulation transcendence. There was another wave of 666 and rewards in the chat group. Golden Jade. Every time Senior transcends 10 bolts of tribulation lightning, I'll tip you 1 million RMB. The Savior. Every time Senior transcends 10 bolts of tribulation lightning, I'll tip you a sports car, no limit. Tian Lingling. Every time Senior transcends 10 bolts of tribulation lightning, I'll tip you 1 spirit stone, no limit. All the cultivators expressed their opinions one after another. Enlightened divine talisman smile was as bright as a chrysanthemum when he saw the rewards and the comments of the nouveau riches in the chat group. And Lin, sure enough, the mood of the group had collapsed. Perhaps it was because this tribulation transcendence was quite important, but White Spirit Snake by Qiong, Battle God Ziyang, Dabai, and Xinyuan Sheng all gathered together to watch the most historic moment in Earth cultivation history. Little Bai, didn't you join the group too? Why aren't you using your own phone? And Lin was confused. Senior and Lin's phone is more useful. I like looking at Senior and Lin's phone. White Spirit Snake replied with a matter-of-fact expression. And Lin, just like that, a few cultivators who could dominate an entire region with a single stomp of their feet huddled together as they stared intently at the live stream. It was a comical yet natural scene. Finally, the first bolt of golden lightning streaked through the sky and landed on Daoist Yumu's head. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted. Even though they were separated by a screen, everyone's hearts still palpitated. A golden light filled the air. Crack! The phone screen suddenly turned golden. Then it turned from golden to black. What's going on? Battle Goddess by Qiong was astonished. Why is it dark? Is it dark divine lightning? Lin, silly girl, there's no signal for the live stream. Chapter 962. No signal? Battle Goddess by Qiong's lips parted slightly, and she was momentarily dazed. Only then did she come to her senses. A rare blush appeared on her frosty face. She looked away and asked in a voice that was not very dignified. Then what should we do? And Lin said slowly, let's wait a little longer. This divine talisman master should be a professional. We have to believe in his ability to overcome these difficulties. The Cultivator group was already in an uproar. The most anticipated moment of tribulation actually had no signal. How could this be tolerated? Countless cultivators tagged perfected divine talisman, and some even started making calls. However, 2 minutes later, the pitch-black live broadcast window suddenly lit up. A round face appeared in front of everyone with a grin on its face. My apologies, fellow Taoists. Due to the terrifying electromagnetic force of the heavenly lightning just now, the signal has become very poor. There's no problem now. We have Taoist booming thunders help to isolate the electromagnetic interference. The scene changed, and a burly man appeared in front of everyone. He smiled, revealing his pearly white teeth, and his hands were entwined with lightning. Fellow cultivators, don't worry. With me here, everything will be fine. Tian Lingling. Who's looking at you? Turn the camera to Senior Yumu. Atomic Bomb Fairy. F***CK off. I want to see Yumu. Don't block the camera. The Savior. How can you be so violent? We should first thank Taoist Booming Thunder for his contribution, and then let him scram. Taoist Booming Thunder. Looking at Taoist Booming Thunder's appearance, and Lin also felt a serious physical discomfort. Because he thought of the cross-dressing photos from before, it was really too painful to look at. Fellow Taoist, my master has already overcome the 60th lightning tribulation. Was he awesome? Everyone, send your gifts to assist my master in transcending the heavenly tribulation. Spiritual Master Divine Talisman said vehemently. There was a flurry of gifts in the group, and Lin felt like he was watching the most astonishing and unique outdoor live stream in history. A live stream of a return to Void Stage Tribulation. Are you scared? The gifts were all in the millions, and there were even real sports cars and yachts. The local tycoons who didn't have the time to go to the scene gave their gifts freely and witnessed this grand event together. Thunder rumbled and golden light flickered across the entire night sky. It was magnificent and magnificent. Yumu unleashed all his power, and a series of yellow Tao talismans danced around his body. They were extremely agile and swift, and released extremely powerful energy to defend against the lightning. Taoists, this is my master's signature technique, Spirit Be Ghost. Do you think it is awesome? If you think it's awesome, don't forget to click on the gift button at the bottom left corner. Enlightened Divine Talisman spoke at the perfect time. Battle Goddess by Qiong tilted her head and looked toward Lin expressionlessly. This fatty is so annoying. Can you block his voice? And Lin sighed. That won't do. How about you turn off all the sounds and mute the live stream? Lin, goddess, Lin said with a battle Ching. She said, battle goddess, Ching, soul god, battle goddess, he god, goddessy. Little Ching is referring to purple star technology. What's there to compare to in the Zhanqi continent? White Spirit Snake explained with a sweet smile. 2. All right. He had to bow his head to an advanced technological civilization. He knew that the Nuwa clan also possessed a large amount of purple star technology. Bolts of golden void lightning fell. Before he knew it, 80 bolts of golden void lightning had already descended. Soul formation stage cultivators had to comprehend the Tao realm to survive 81 bolts of golden void lightning. This wasn't an easy task. On the contrary, it was a near-death experience. Yumu's ability to endure for so long was already very impressive. Boom! The 80th bolt of golden void lightning fell. Golden light illuminated the world, illuminating the night sky as if it were daytime. The terrifying might of the lightning tore through Yumu's Tao talismans and landed on his head, charring him black in an instant. Everyone let out cries of surprise. Enlightened divine talisman's hands trembled, and he almost tossed his phone out of the air as he yelled his master's name. I'm fine. Yumu suddenly roared, stunning everyone present. Enlightened divine talisman was so excited that he was about to burst into tears. See that? Master is fine. He blocked the 80th bolt of tribulation lightning. There's only one bolt of tribulation lightning left. Fellow cultivators, let my master see your hands. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The live stream was instantly flooded with gifts. All the cultivators gifted and cheered wildly. And Lin was speechless as he looked at Enlightened Divine Talisman. This streamer is 2F Asterisk King dedicated. He still hasn't forgotten about his career as a streamer. What's the point of being a cultivator? He should be a streamer instead. The last bolt of tribulation lightning gathered its terrifying might, and heaven and earth began to tremble. All the cultivators held their breaths as they stared at the scene unfolding before their eyes. Enlightened Divine Talisman didn't say anything. He stared intently at Yumu and clenched his fists. Crackle boom. An incomparably dazzling bolt of golden void lightning fell from the sky. Yumu unleashed all of his power, and countless Tao talismans soared into the sky to defend against the terrifying power. The golden void lightning was like an unstoppable divine sword, crushing the power of the Tao talismans before landing on Yumu's body. The lightning instantly exploded, reducing the earth within a radius of several hundred meters to dust. Gales of wind swept for thousands of meters, and the golden lightning lit up heaven and earth like the most dazzling sun. At this moment, apart from the sound of the explosion, there was no other sound. Did Master succeed? Enlightened Divine Talisman murmured as he stared intently at the place where the lightning had exploded. Haha, I'm going to be a mighty figure of the return to Void Stage from now on. An extremely carefree laughter reverberated through the heavens. All the cultivators were momentarily dazed. Then they erupted into raucous cheers. Haha, I knew Master would be fine. Fellow cultivators, what are you waiting for? Let's celebrate. Enlightened Divine Talisman glanced at the live stream before running toward Yumu excitedly. In the cultivator group, gifts and congratulatory messages flooded the screen. At this moment, the entire world was celebrating. They knew that after a certain limit had been broken, a new era of cultivation on Earth was about to arrive. This is great, and Lin clenched his fists tightly upon seeing this. At this moment, a black Taoist priest appeared on the livestream screen. His entire body was char black, and smoke was rising from his hair. He was none other than Yumu, who had successfully transcended the tribulation. Yumu smiled confidently, revealing a row of pristine white teeth. Fellow cultivators, thank you for your support and encouragement. I, Yumu, have now successfully broken through to the return to Void Stage. Are you guys awesome? If you think I'm awesome, then send me more gifts. Burp. He waved his arms, and his eyes suddenly rolled back as his body fell backward. Master. Enlightened Divine Talisman turned pale with fright and he immediately caught the collapsed Yumu. After checking Yumu's aura, he heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at the camera. My master's aura is stable. He merely fainted from overexertion. Don't worry, fellow cultivators. Send me some gifts, and my master will recover. The number of gifts in a live stream increased explosively once again. And Lin, battle goddess by Qiong, this master and disciple pair really are of the same lineage. Xianyuan Cheng couldn't help but grumble as he looked at the live stream. A great teacher produces a great disciple. Woof! Dabai was excited. There was a faint impulse in his heart. A crooked stick will have a crooked shadow. White Spirit Snake pursed her lips. She wasn't interested in live streams. All right, return to Void Stage cultivators have already appeared on Earth. Battle Goddess by Qiong reminded. We have to be careful here as well. The naturally formed spell formation could change at any time.